Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Blue Fishing, the art of making mortgage marketing happen summit. We're doing this today again in honor of our great friend Steve Sims. And I just want to welcome everybody to the show. Hopefully, you were able to join us yesterday for our AI summit. And hopefully, today will be just as amazing as yesterday. And I'm going to start off by bringing on our first speaker. So give me 1 second here to grab Brian. Good morning, Brian. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Hey, doing well, man. Well, welcome to the show. As you know, we're doing this in honor of our friend Steve Sims, and I know you knew Steve well. So tell us a little bit about, how you met Steve.
Sure. So fluke circumstance. I'm actually going to cover it in the presentation, but I was a co-host with my friend Joe Ingram. He has a podcast, and he at the end, so Joe always invites me to it. And at the end, he's like, is there anything you want to say to Steve? And I gave Steve a tip on like trimming his mustache and the why. And he's like, oh, do you think I care? And I was like, okay, well, F that guy. And, but I followed up with Steve and I said, hey, this is the reason I told you this. This is what I talk about. This is what I teach. And then I ended up on Steve's podcast and then I ended up speaking at his event. And he became my coach. So I've known Steve since 2021 and the guy completely changed my life.
That's awesome. And I feel like all of us have, a funny story of how we, came across Steve or, regarding maybe podcasts or, something like that. And, like I told my story yesterday, I met him because I seen he was like a keynote speaker going to be a mastermind. Mm-hmm. And I was looking for speakers for my virtual events like this when I first started them in 2019. And I reached out to him and he was kind of like, no. He's like, I don't do virtual stuff, who I am. And then we became kind of friends on Facebook for a couple of weeks there. And finally he reached back out to me and was like, you know what? When do you need me? My schedule cleared up. He's like, I'm in. So, it's just cool. And he was always the guy to, you kind of shot it straight to him.
Yeah.
I feel like that may be how you guys got introduced, and that's how he was. He was a straight shooter. Like you said, he was like, why do I care? And I think that's the way the personality of Steve and, a lot of people really enjoyed, the way he was not, your normal, typical by the, normal standards of a coach.
Yeah. He changed.
He liked the oddballs and the rebels.
He most certainly did. And he had a way of just cutting through the BS. He really did. He could just get straight to the point. And it was pretty incredible.
Yeah. I've had a lot of conversations with him over the phone. Unfortunately, I never got to meet the man personally, but had a lot of great conversations with him on the phone and through Messenger and through our podcast and through the events and stuff that I held that he, was nice enough to partake in. So, awesome, man. Well, I'm going to let you have the stage so you can dive into, what you're here to talk about, which is how to grow your business with speaking, with podcasts and stages.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we're going to talk about. Steve was my coach. He's my one-on-one coach for a while. And part of the reason why I hired him is because when I started speaking, I went to events, but I wanted a speaker who was actually speaking to be a coach. There's a lot of people who are like, oh, I'm a speaker coach. They don't speak. And I went and I watched the way that Steve interacted with people, with the organizer, with, the people who attended the event, with the other speakers. I thought that's the guy I want to be like. And I'd actually read Blue Fishing, the book, before I met Steve. And it was such a good book. Like I typed up the whole notes for it. So when I first met Steve, I'm like, hey, here's all the notes for your book. And he just had that impact. And, I always joke with him. I say, it's a good thing he was British because he was an ugly guy. But I called him like the human Geico lizard. He just was such a fun guy to hang out with. And if you watched, unfortunately, after we lost him, how people's feed blew up with what all Steve taught them. And he just had that ability to impact lives in so many different ways.
Yeah. For weeks I had, seen posts from, everybody in my feed, even people that I didn't know, talking about Steve and the impact that they had on their lives. And that's what brought me to this. Mm-hmm. I was like, you know what? Steve helped me really get this going and, gave me a chance. And I was like, let's do something in honor of him. So I reached out to Henry to make sure I had his blessing. Right. And then reached out to a lot of people that I knew that, knew Steve and that
Yeah.
could relate to, why we're doing this. So today, yourself, we got Josh Pitts, who, Steve impacted, Bill Hart, which was really good friends with Steve.
Mm-hmm.
We have Babick,
Yep.
which
Kristen. Yeah.
she absolutely loves Steve. So most of the people on the pod are on the event today are all people that had encounters with Steve or relationships with Steve, and that excites me to see that impact they had or he had on them.
Yeah, we the last event I saw Steve at, we both spoke together in Orlando, and it was kind of a full circle moment because Steve had always been my coach, and we spoken like Secret Knock, but this was an event where he was the keynote and I was the other speaker that was there. And so that's my final memory with Steve, was getting to do that. And we hung out in Orlando, and we went across the street to Capitol Grill by Universal, all this kind of stuff. And I ordered an old fashioned. Steve's like, I'm not drinking whiskey right now. Can I have a mezcal old fashioned? Like, yeah. The waitress goes, do you want this brand or that one? He's like, I don't care. That sounds good. Well, I pick up the bill, because Steve was my coach. And I was like, I'll buy him a drink. My old fashioned was $25. Steve's was $152. And I'm like, Steve, how's your old fashioned? He's like, it's pretty good. It's like, can you drink it with like a little bottle tweezer, like eye drop wise? Because that's $150 old fashioned. And he had no idea. The servers just ended up picking the most expensive tequila for him to use for mezcal. But yeah, it was a kind of fun final memory with Steve.
That's awesome. Yeah, and Blue Fishing, like I told everybody, is an amazing book. If you haven't read it, or I always suggest the Audible just because he does the reading of it, which makes it that much more awesome.
Yes.
So yeah, if you haven't, go out there and listen to the book or read the book. It's an amazing story. It'll inspire everyone.
Yeah, absolutely will. Especially when you hear where he came from to where he was. So I apologize.
Yeah,
I'm losing my voice today.
Yeah, it's incredible. That's what really inspired me to, like I told people yesterday, when I started doing these events, I hired an MC. Mm-hmm. Like I was just the behind the scenes guy that put them together because I didn't want to be on the camera. And then after I met Steve and he did my event, I'm like, well, that was stupid. Why am I not putting myself out there? Why am I not the face of what I'm trying to do? So I had to put my fears behind me and be like, okay, I'll get on. And I'd never done that before, never been on video or any of that. And then that led to me doing a podcast with my good friend, Laura Brandeo, and, still doing these events, today. So 6 years later. So, pretty cool. But yeah, man, let's get you going here. I'll bring on your slides and get out of your way.
Awesome. Sometimes I get into it, so just let me know when to shut up.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so what we're going to talk about today is what Steve taught me about how to grow any kind of business with podcasts and stages. And that's the really unique thing is people think speaking in itself is the ultimate goal. And it is. I love traveling the world and speaking on events. That lights me up, getting to go meet new people, travel, but it can help you grow your business no matter what kind of business you're in. Because everybody, when they see someone on stage, not only are you in an elevated position, but they think, well, this person must be there for a reason. So it's all the way that stages can help you grow your business. And when I got started, I had an idea, but I didn't know really how to teach it, what I wanted. And that was, I wanted to share the same skill that changed my life over time. And so I thought, okay, well, I want to do this, but how do I do it? And what do all people do? Man, I bought books, you name it. I bought all the ClickFunnels books. I bought just everything that was out there. I went to seminars. I would listen to different speakers, but nobody really told me how to do it. And the simple answer was, well, it's all sales and marketing. Just run ads, and post to social media. And don't get me wrong, everybody should be posting to social media because consistency is key, but that's not the only key. You have to learn to do so many different things. And one of the first things that Steve helped me with was like, who was my avatar? Because if you try to sell to everyone, you're selling no one. We all want that personalized feel when we do things. You don't just say, I want a car. It's like, okay, well, I want a 2-door. I want a 4-door. I want whatever it is. But you have to kind of figure out who do you want to work with? Who is your ideal customer and who's going to benefit from your service? And it's okay to have different pillars where you can have a sales one. So for example, with what I teach, I have a sales route. I have a leadership route, a team building, team bonding route. So it's okay to have different verticals, but each one has to be specific for that individual customer, right? That you're wanting to work with. And so then what did I start doing? Well, because I had that idea, I started talking to everybody about it. And part of the reason why you talk to everyone about it is because you need to understand what your message really is. But what you do is you get excited about it and you leave out important steps. And so when you leave out important steps, people don't know what you're excited about. So I don't know if you've ever been to a seminar and you come back, you're all excited, and like, I learned these things and these people, I'm going to put it into action. And you can't explain the process. And that's what you really have to learn to do. And that's where speaking helps you, is you learn to refine your message to help get people involved with the message at the same time. So what else did I do is I went and found successful people who did it. And the whole reason I did that was because I wanted to find people who were doing what I was doing. And so, for example, that's why I hired Steve as my speaking coach, is he was a speaker that was out there doing it. And I wanted to learn that same information from someone who was actively doing it at the same time. But what I learned is you can't just like go and hire a coach and be done with it. So one of the things that I did was I started signing up for everything that I could. So I was in corporate America. I was unhappy when I was in corporate America, and I would go and I would sign up for events. I would literally take vacation days from work. So that's how I used my vacation, is I would go to live events, seminars, networking events, you name it. But I also joined masterminds. And why I go to masterminds is because you get that small group of knowledge. So I would always go to, for example, Steve Sims Speakeasy. After the first one I spoke at, I kept going back to each of the ones. And when he started the distillery, I joined that also. Why? Because I wanted FaceTime with Steve. And it doesn't have to be, it's anything that you want. So it doesn't have to be an individual person who hosts a mastermind. You can join an association, but always go buy the ticket, show up there, invest in it. But one of the things that people get wrong is when they go to events, they don't network with the people in the room. They go to see a speaker or whoever's organizing the event, but that's not where the power is. The real power is talk to everyone that's there, because chances are, it doesn't matter what vertical they're in, what business or industry they're in. People have the same challenges across all industries. So when you learn to network, your solution may be the person sitting next to you, not the person that you came to see on stage. That's why it's so important when you go to network. And I'm an introvert by nature, so networking does not come naturally to me. Like, I'm good once I get going. I'm kind of like one of those little wind-up toys. You pull my string and let me talk on stage, and then afterwards I'll talk to everybody. But when I first get started, I sit in the back and I'm kind of quiet and I don't really talk to a lot of people. But all these relationships that I developed were people sitting next to me in the crowd, and just at any type of event that you're at. Those people are the ones who can sometimes help you the most. Then what else do you do? Provide value to other people. So when you start providing value to other people, what happens is somebody said, oh yeah, Brian helped me on this, or Mitch helped me on this, or Steve helped me on this. Well, when that word starts to get around, what happens is people share what you've done for them. And so there's a whole lot of strategy with people growing their social media by going into other people's Facebook groups or groups and not trying to pitch a single thing, but just provide value. And there's a lot of benefit to providing value to others, because sometimes we take for granted the knowledge we have until we meet somebody who is now where we once were. And you realize how much stuff you actually know how to do that you had no idea that you could actually do. So then what happens is, as you keep doing that, word spreads to the top. So if you help enough people, your name starts being mentioned in rooms that you weren't in. And what happens to that is, well, people who have podcasts always need a guest. People who have events always need a speaker. Organizations need trainers to come in to motivate people, to educate people, you name it. So the more things that you can do to help other people first, that is a better way to get your name in front of people, because referrals carry weight versus ads. Look, ads can work. There's some amazing people you can take ads from, or ads training from. Alex Hormozi just came out with his book, launched 2 weekends ago, where he made $100 million with it. There's people you can learn from. But when you go in and you help other people, it's those referral sources. We always trust third-party referrals that much more. And then what do you do when your name starts to get noticed? You just continue providing value. So like we talked about before, all podcasters need listeners. And then event organizers, what do they have to do? Well, they have to sell tickets. And what do they sell tickets on? Based on the value that they're going to provide to their audience. So when they consistently see you providing value, that's how it comes back in. If you're also talking, let's say you don't want to speak in an association, but you want to speak to corporations or charity events, nonprofit businesses, it's the same thing. As you provide more and more value to people, your name will still be there. And if you do a great job on a stage or in a small room, what happens is They want to bring you back for the other people and the other groups that they have who need that same thing. So for example, I just spoke here in Dallas, Texas, where I live. I spoke to a large energy company. Well, I talked to their emerging leaders. These are people who got promoted they were good workers. They just moved into management. And I did that one at a smaller fee and in a smaller room. Why? To get my foot in the door for that corporation, because they have dozens of events all year. So when you provide value to it at any tier, then that word of mouth gets around. A lot of people try and go to the top and be like, I want to work with a C-suite. I want to work with the CEO. I want to work with the CFO, those people. But companies really, especially right now, I don't know if you're familiar, but last year, the big thing in 2024 was where they started wiping out mid-level managers, what was once one of the safest jobs that was out there. So now you have leadership up here and you have workers down here, and they don't always know how to talk to each other. So if you can figure out how to serve those two groups at the bottom and at the top, you can always meet at the middle as well. So it's just a way to just get in there. Now, as far as putting out social media, providing value, the number one thing is consistency. So we'll use podcasts as an example of this, but there's a really good book called Book Yourself Solid. And in that, there's a phrase, it's called always have something to invite people to, or what they call ash tiptoe. And that is, once people start realizing that you're providing value, you have to keep showing up to do it. So if it's podcasts, then you have to make sure your podcast comes out the same day every month or whatever it is, same day of the week, same day of the month. You have to have that consistency so people know when to show up. And that's just it. When you do things like keep showing up at live events, keep posting on social media, keep putting out your podcast, people pay attention because they know you're investing in yourself. So what a lot of people, in my opinion, do wrong is they go to an event one time and they never go back to it. But that's not how you get recognized by people in the room and people who put the event together. So if you keep showing up, the people putting those events together recognize who you are, especially if you have something that stands out. So normally when I speak, I always wear a vest, and I can walk into other people's events. They're like, hey, are you the guy that can decode faces? I'm like, yes, I am. So you just have to keep going out there. And as you help people, what happens is they get excited. They then, again, third-party testimonial, will post about you on their social media, and then you get access to their audience, or they'll bring you onto their podcast. That's exposure to all these things. Well, what happens is somebody in that audience may need what you sell or the service that you provide. And so if your entire intent is just to help people, eventually that comes around full circle. Now, this is a big one, and this one was a hard one for me, such a hard one for me. I was raised in that environment that it was great advice that my grandparents gave to my parents, but when my parents gave it to me, it wasn't good advice anymore. And that was, work hard, keep your head down, and if you work hard, you'll get noticed. That's not how it works this day and age. This day and age, you have to toot your own horn. You have to do personal branding. And when you are given a chance, you have to absolutely say, yes, I want to do it right now. So if you find anyone that offers you help, say yes. Or if you see an opportunity that you can fill that slot and help them, let people know that you can do that. And I know that's a really daunting thing. So for example, I'm going to talk here in a second about how I got on the very first stage I ever spoke on. But when it was first offered to me, I almost said no, because I looked up at this person that was at such a higher level than I was at. That I was like, for example, let's talk about the Steve thing. And we're going to cover this here in a minute. But when Steve just blew me away when he was on Joe Ingram's podcast, and at the end, Joe said, hey, Brian, you want to say anything to Steve? And I was almost like, that was Joe giving me an opportunity. And so I was like, okay, I've got to take this opportunity. And that's how I met Steve. We're going to go a little bit more into that. But the very first time that I did that was I became friends with Janine Driver through Brad Lee. And what happened is she would send me pictures of people and I would decode their faces and send them back to her. Well, and I said, she was going to speak at Brad's event. And I said, hey, I'm going to buy this ticket so I can mingle with the speakers. I'm going to do all these things. And she goes, hold on, let me call you back in 5 minutes. And when she called me back, she goes, you're not going as an attendee to this event. And I'm like, well, why? I wanted to go to this event. She goes, no, you're going to come as a speaker. And that's one of the things that really changed my life, was the fact that Janine gave me that opportunity to do something. So this is Janine Driver. She gave me my very first opportunity to stick up on stage. What she did is, because I had helped her and provided value to her, and there was no intent for it. I just thought I loved the skill of teaching it to people. But because I'd helped her with something, she went to Brad Lee and said, hey, I'm going to get rid of 15 minutes of my time because I want Brian to speak. And it was scary. My hands shook. It was not a good presentation, in my opinion, but I was hooked after that. And it was all because I said yes when she gave me the opportunity. But I'll tell you what I didn't do good, and that was I wasn't prepared. I had a crappy website. I had no CRM. I had nothing for people to follow me on afterwards. I didn't really have any social media following, no lead magnet, no funnels, you name it, all the things that you should have that people can get in touch with you. So if you want to go back old school, that'd be like in the old days, not having a business card and just telling people, hey, come find me later on. And that's where I was doing everything wrong. And that's where I came in and hired Steve, because I needed all those assets to figure out how to grow my business. So Steve was my one-on-one speaking coach, but it wasn't just about speaking. The first thing we did is we redid my website. We redid my lead magnets, how people can get in touch with me, you name it. So Henry and Steve do this, what they call a social media fingerprint. Like they go and look across all your social media and figure out, like, are you consistent? Where are you different? What do you need to fix? What do you need to do? And it completely changed things. But in addition to help me fix things, what they helped me do was look at how can podcasts and stages really help me in the long run? And again, I knew I wanted to be a speaker. I freaking love doing it because I love to travel, love to meet people, and love to help change people's lives at the same time. And when you get on podcasts and stages, you stop going from one-to-one where you have to do elevator pitches, but you get to share your message, and it gives you authority and reach at the same time. Because every time you're on somebody else's podcast, you're vetted by the host. So they go, okay, I can trust Brian because of this. And so there really is, I know people always think, well, I just want to be on stages. And let me tell you, the average speaker the first year out makes like $47,000 a year if they're lucky, because you have to do a lot of things for free. You have to do a lot of things where you pay your own travel while you're earning your stripes that's out there. But the best thing is podcasts, because podcasts, you don't have to leave your house. If you happen to be able to go to an in-person one, I always recommend you go do that, because when you're in the room with people, it makes a difference. But when you're doing podcasts, that's how you learn to craft your message, because you get asked things that you didn't think about. And so you have to kind of change and do your message differently. So when you're on a podcast, like I've had crazy questions I never would have thought of when I was putting all my stuff together that said, okay, oh, well, that's why I need to make part of my message now. Plus you get introduced to new audiences. Now, when you're out there, the other thing that's nice about podcasts is it's like me. I live and die by these AirPod things here. So I throw it in. I don't even listen to music anymore. I throw in something on YouTube, podcast, you name it. So while I'm walking around doing anything around the house, I'm driving, I get exposure to people. Well, when people spend time with you, they get a taste of who you are, versus if you do an ad or you just do a social media post, people scroll on to the next thing. But when you're on a podcast, they listen for a little bit, and podcasts live on forever. So you could record a podcast today and somebody hears 2 years later that then they reach out to you. And that's the power of it all. Social media is great. I post a lot on Instagram. It's like my largest following, then TikTok, but you're always fighting the scroll. But when you're on a podcast, people are there to spend time with you, and everybody has access to it. So podcasts can also go viral. This is one that was done. It was so dumb. It was 2 months ago. I was going to an event. Somebody reached out and said, hey, we're doing our podcast in Vegas. Do you want to come out and do it? So I had to change an existing flight, and it was an in-person one in Vegas. They actually had to change studios last minute. So as the guest on the None of Your Business podcast, this one clip here, which is 23 seconds long, I think something like that, or 32 seconds long, right now is sitting at 4.5 million views. And if you look at how many days, it's insane. It's 1 year, 227 days worth of people watching a less than 30-second clip. But when people see that, again, then they go through and then they may listen to the podcast. They may just follow you on social media. But that's what podcasts have the ability to do. Stages, you can change lives. But with podcasts, you can go viral and they continue to live out there. So when I speak on a stage and I leave a stage, unless you bought recordings of that event, I'm gone. But when you're on a podcast, you're out there for so long. And I mentioned and hinted about this earlier. This was a podcast that changed my life. So after Joe Ingram's podcast, what I told Steve was the reason to trim his mustache so we could see his upper lip. So what I teach is I was trained by the expert in the world on how to understand people by decoding their facial features. And Steve used to have a mustache that grew over his lip. And I was explaining to him why he needs to trim that and how it affects interactions with other people. And at first Steve's like, do you think I care? And I was like, well, F this guy, whatever. But I thought, no, I need to follow up with him. So I got his information from Joe. I reached out to Steve. I'm like, hey, this is the reason why. Here's some of my PowerPoints. And he's like, you want to come on my podcast? I'm like, yeah, I do. When I was done with the podcast, he said, you want to come speak at my event? So being on Joe's podcast led to being on Steve's podcast. Steve used his podcast as a way to vet people to be a speaker at his event. And that's how podcasts literally changed my life. Because that was Janine gave me 15 minutes of her time. That was my first time on stage. But as a result of being on Steve's podcast was how I ended up on my first official, hey, you're here to be a speaker event. And it changed my life completely. So once you get off podcast, what I mentioned before is it leads to stages. So what do you get when you're on stages? Credibility. You get authority. And it's kind of funny. Put a microphone in somebody's hand and all of a sudden we think they're important. You know, we all have things to share, but when you're up on a stage, people think, well, who is this person? All of a sudden they start looking you up. So it's really a kind of a paid advertising thing because people all of a sudden start looking you up when you're on stage because they think there's a reason that you're there. Now, the other thing is that's the people that are in the room. But what happens before you get out there is people promote stages. So this is, the line from Tombstone, I can make you famous. But if there's somebody selling tickets to an event, what are they doing? They're constantly promoting who the speakers are going to be. And if you get listed in there, again, that just raises your authority level. And people are aware of who you are. Before that, nobody would have known who Brian Galkey is, but they see me on there and they're like, oh, well, let me go look up and see who this guy is. So as an example of some of these are some of the events I spoke at in the last year. So there's one industry leader. I spoke at the Go High Level event last year in 2024 in front of 1,000 people. It was an amazing time. I got invited to the Scale Your Business in Vegas. So all these things, what happens is these flyers are created and you put them on your own social media, but people put them out to theirs. So all of a sudden you're once again in front of audiences and people are like, well, who is that person? And then the cool thing is depending on who the other speakers are, you get guilt by association. So kind of like with podcasts, it's the same thing with speakers. I follow certain speakers. I listen to certain podcasts. Well, like my current one that I'm addicted to is Diary of a CEO. Well, when you're out there is once you get exposure to people, then all of a sudden they start reaching out to you. And so when you follow somebody that you like, then you're naturally curious, well, why did this person have that person? And their level of success kind of rubs off to you because you're seen as a peer in theirs. So I did see the question from Michelle. How did I learn about decoding faces? It was fluke circumstance. I met the expert and I actually went to go prove he was a fraud. Instead, he won me over. And he lives in Fort Worth. I live in Dallas. And I would drive 45 minutes twice a month to do group training with him. But I was just one of those students that got it. And it's what took me from being an introvert on the help desk to being a regional vice president of sales with a $40 million book of business. And I wasn't telling anybody what I was doing because I was just embarrassed or ashamed that I had to read books on body language or statement analysis. Those are great, but body language is reactive. I have to be in the room with you. You have to move. But by learning what people's facial features mean, resting facial features, it's not like the show Lie to Me, but what people's resting facial features tell you about them is how their brain works. And it's based on the 43 muscles in the face. The mind creates movement, movement creates muscle. So I could look up people ahead of time and figure out how am I going to personalize the presentation for those people. So anyway, sorry, I saw the question that popped up there. The next one is when you're on stages, well, stages also provide assets. So here was the Go High Level event that I spoke at. You can see they put my name all over the side. I used the hell out of that one for advertising because here I am on stage. My name's there. I can put that picture out anytime. People are going, here's Brian. Here he is on a stage. I was in the magazine with all the other speakers. Again, I was getting to feed off of those people's success. I mean, there were some big name speakers that were on there, and I'm sitting in there on number 3. I'm just like I still have that today. It's framed up on my wall because it's kind of surreal to have been part of that. And kind of what we talked about before, I just want people to understand with podcasts and with stages, there's a lot of people who just tell you, oh, you'll just be a speaker and all of a sudden you'll be a millionaire. It's not that way. It's a very slow build, just like any business is. But if you keep building it, it works. So when I first started, I did free with where I paid my own travel. Then it was I spoke for free where they paid my travel. Then I'd make $200, then $500, then $1,000, you name it. And then it just keeps building. And you can get to some pretty cool sums to get to share information, change people's lives at the same time. But I just want people to know it's not an overnight success thing. Like you were talking about, how long have you been doing your virtual events now? 6 years ago, you met Steve. You didn't do 6, days or 6 months. And all of a sudden, oh, it all works out great. It's a slow, steady build, just like going to the gym is. And then once they're out there, you see increased demand. Once people see you on a stage, they want to hire you to be on a stage. And that's kind of the funny thing about it is there's the part when you get in the beginning that you do stuff for free and you don't think to have what they call assets or pictures or videos of you on a stage, but all of a sudden you post a picture of you on a stage and people come out and go, well, I want you to be on mine. So it changes things. And then the most important thing is once you help people, and we talked earlier about a lead magnet and ways for people to find you, is you have to follow up with people. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in, but think about, I was just on with somebody who was a realtor and somebody went back to him to buy 5 different houses. But the reason why is because that realtor kept following up with people. Or I do a podcast with Ed Parco. He's another person I met through Steve Sims. I think he just got a deal the other day that was from 7 years ago. He helped someone. Why? Because he sends, follow-up emails. He sends information to customers. And that's what a lot of people don't do is they think, oh, I didn't win this one, or I've got this person. Great. I have their information, but we're not nurturing those leads. And I need to improve on that. I'm going to call myself out on it. I don't do this nearly enough. But when you do, it can be amazing because these are people who already know, like, and trust you. And so what can you keep doing? Just keep adding value. So how can you do that? Create blogs, send out newsletters, keep emails going. Yes, we all hate to get a million different emails, but if it's got good information, I want to see that email. And then continually, you should be adding new products to your suite that can help people. So for example, here with mortgage and real estate, are there checklists you can provide to somebody? Is there new information that somebody's looking to purchase or sell their home that they need to know about? You can put that information out there. And when you put that information out there, you're seen as the authority for everything. So this is what changed my life. And that was Janine Driver gave up 15 minutes of her time. Joe Ingram had me sit as a co-host on his podcast. That podcast led me to meeting Steve. Steve brought me on, had me on his podcast. After it was vetted from that, the podcast led to a stage, but then I hired a coach that was there and I followed it. So these are all the things that you can do. And this is what Steve teaches in Blue Fishing. Is what are the unique ways that you can reach out and do things to meet people. So with Steve, he would send off weird items to people, right? Or postcards from a hotel, different ways to stand out. That's what you need to be doing as well. And I can't recommend enough. Everybody here needs to pick up Blue Fishing. You already said it earlier. I love the Audible because you get to hear it in Steve's voice. So if you never had the opportunity and the pleasure of meeting Steve, that's just the best way to do it. He's also got a second book called Go for Stupid. That was great as well. Just Blue Fishing was the first one of his books. It's what led to me following him, hiring him as my coach and everything else. So that's all I can really recommend to everybody else.
What I love about Blue Fishing is it's his story, like where he came from as a bricklayer in London to where he was hanging out with the likes of Elon Musk. And, it's just wild that really anything is possible, with the right mindset and being willing to, like you said, make connections. Started with the 15 minutes that someone gave you because you were nice to them, led you down the path that you're on. And if it wasn't for that, you don't know where your path would have led.
Yeah. Well, and to your point, he was in a generational curse business. What I mean by that is his grandfather was a bricklayer. His dad was a bricklayer. He having not changed his mind, that would have been his entire life. He's doing nothing but being a bricklayer. And I think it was his grandfather who told him to do something else. Yeah.
He looked like a bricklayer.
He absolutely did. He was a fun guy. Steve was the kind of guy that if he didn't harass you, he didn't like you.
Right.
At first, that's a little nerve-wracking when you first meet him. You're like, oh, this guy hates my guts. And then you realize it's kind of like that scene in Gran Torino where they go to the barbershop. That was Steve Sims in real life. If he wasn't harassing you, he didn't like you much.
Yeah. He looked like a bricklayer, talked like a bricklayer, but was one of the most successful people I've ever met.
Absolutely. So, but he did. He changed my life. After I spoke at his speakeasy event, it was in April 2021. I attended every single speakeasy I could. I only missed 2 since 2021. And that was because one was
I tell people, I tell this people all the time about Steve is what was unique about him is he could have a speakeasy. 40 people would give him a check for thousands of dollars.
Yep.
And they would know one thing, and that was the city that they would be in.
Yep.
And he would not tell you a single other thing about where, what, how, why. you're giving him a check for thousands of dollars just in the fact that you knew he was going to provide amazing value and an amazing event. And like you said, people don't even know where they were, barely what hotel they were staying in.
Yeah, they would. Yeah, it would. You're right. He would pick a city. A month before, or maybe like 6 weeks, he'd say, "Here's the host hotel you need to book at," but they wouldn't give you the venue until the week of the event. And the other thing is, there was no green room. You sat in as a speaker. You sat in the audience just like everybody else. Everybody thinks like we all play a game. Like, who's the attendee that's going to speak next? Because we didn't know. And even as a speaker, like I knew I was speaking, but I didn't know who else was going to speak. So he didn't even tell the other speakers who they were. He's just like, here's your day, here's your time, here's how long you have, and come to the event. And that's where I go back to the networking. That's why I kept going back, because it was a small 40-person room. And you got to know the people in the room. And to this day, I still text people that there's 2 events that people I've met at. And that was like a 10X Growth Con, one of the first ones I went to. I kept in touch with some people. But Steve's people, I talk to on a regular basis. I do a podcast with Ed. I talk to Pam Pryor all the time. I talk to Kristen. I went and spoke at her event. I check in with Henry. I'm still in the distillery, which they have is the mastermind that's still going on. But I still check in the most with people I met through Steve, because that's the kind of person he was. Is he curated good people, and he wasn't ashamed that if he hired somebody or brought in someone, not hired, if he brought in someone that wasn't a good fit, he was quick to get that person out. And that is just as important as getting the right people in the room is getting the wrong people out of the room. And that's why I kept going back. And I had to pay, like, even though he was my coach, still had to pay to go to these events, and it was worth every penny.
Yeah. And I noticed that a lot of people, it doesn't matter what industry they're in. I've seen people in there that are mortgage brokers, real estate agents, everything. And people just connected and stayed in contact with each other. And, I see that through the distillery and through everything. Mm-hmm. And that's what I loved about Steve. He was like, you're part of this. Come join me. Like be in the distillery, be in this, whatever I can do to provide value to you. Like I said, I always tell people about those events, because who else do you know in the world that you would write a check to and know absolutely nothing about what you're getting?
Right.
That just shows who he is, like as a person. Like people trusted and knew they were going to get something great from it.
Absolutely. And the other important thing, if there's something to model from Steve, be a connector. And he wasn't a lot of people, they hold so tight to their contacts, like, well, this is my contact. If I give you their contact, what if they like you better than me? Steve was constantly introducing people to other people if he saw synergy between them. Yep. And he would just be like, hey, you need to know this person. Hey, call this person. Or he'd do introductions. That was one of the things that how my speaking career also got started was I didn't do a lot of advertising. Steve would get hired for an event and he'd go, do you know who Brian Galk is? He couldn't say Galky for some reason, even after 5 years. But, I would end up at events. So as I mentioned before, the last time I saw Steve was us both speaking at an event that they hired him as the keynote. And he's like, you need Brian to be there as well. And that's the kind of person he was, is if he believed in you or he saw where you could help someone else or someone else could help you, he was not afraid to make that introduction. And more of us need to be like Steve in that manner.
Yeah. And I do that. Like even on my LinkedIn and Facebook, it says mortgage industry connector. Like I want people to reach out to me and say, hey, who do you know that can help me with this? And a few times I've done events like this where I paired up 2 people to speak at the same time. Yeah. And I paired up Coach Bill Hart and Dale Vermillion. And they've both been in the mortgage industry for 40 years, never met each other. And I introduced them. We got on a Zoom call to prep for it. And they were long lost brothers.
Yeah.
Like been in the industry the same amount of time, been married to their wives the same amount of time. Like, doing things for others was like their main purpose in life. And when they got on their call to do that, they didn't have a script. They didn't have anything. They just were so good with each other that they flew off the cuff with each other for 45 minutes and everybody was in love with it. And, and for a week later, these 2 never even met. and it was I just knew from meeting them both and interviewing them both, like, hey, these guys would be a good connection. connected them, and it was like the perfect connection. And that's where Steve got the enjoyment, and where I get the enjoyment from is making those connections. You could create lifelong friendships and relationships, you know, with people just by saying, hey, you know, do you know this person? And you can change people's lives, you know, just like the gal did for you.
Yeah. It's crazy. Here's one of the secrets in life that I didn't learn till later. And that is, everything you want in this world, other people can help you get there if you learn how to ask and you're not afraid to ask. And that's Steve taught me that. And I still I'm scared at some points to ask people stuff. But then with when I learned on how to decode people through faces, body language, whatever, then I learned how to ask. Because a lot of times we ask based on the way we think, and that's not the way it works. If you read any books like Never Split the Difference Here, Hostage Negotiator, start with what's the other person want or need. And when you figure out that, then you know how to ask for things.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've always been in sales my whole life. And, you know, I was in a call center and calling car dealerships for sales. And, everybody would always call like these mom and pop one car dealerships, and they would be like, oh my God, I got 15 deals this month. I'm kicking ass. And then, you know, like 3 weeks in, I'd have a couple deals. And then all of a sudden I would have 20 deals pop in. They're like, how the hell did you do that? And I'm like, well, I talked to a guy that had 20 dealerships.
Yeah.
They're like, well, how'd you get a hold of him? I'm like, I just picked up the phone and asked for him, you know? And I was talking to guys that had 200 plus dealerships, you know, and people were like, well, how'd you get a hold of him? I'm like, you just call them. Like, they're no different than you and I. Like, if you get through to them and you ask the right questions, they'll answer the phone.
Here's something that, and this is a kind of a tip generically for everybody. It doesn't always apply because some people have teams, but you'd be amazed how many people answer their own social media. And I'm talking like people that you wouldn't think, like they've got, 3.5 million followers, and they'll still have their phone in their hand. I'm like, what are you doing? They're like, I'm checking my social media, my DMs. Because it's still kind of personal to them. Now, some people have teams and you're going to be talking to a third party person, but I'm amazed how many people you can get a hold of based on just their social media.
Right. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. I mean, what's the worst is going to say is no, or they're not going to answer, you know, like,
Bradley taught me a long time ago.
And throw you out.
You already don't have it. That was one of the things that it took me so long. And I get paranoid to pick up the phone, ask about speaking gigs and stuff. But Bradley told me one time, he's like, you already don't have it. So if you ask, maybe you'll get it. But the answer is already no right now. So if they tell you no, then you're just confirming what you already have. I was like, damn, that's a genius one, So
yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, I really appreciate you joining us and sharing, your history with Steve. And like I said, it's important for me for people to hear and see, the kind of man he was and impact he had on people. So I really appreciate you, sharing with us today.
Yeah. Thanks for putting this together. This has been awesome. It's been a nice trip down memory lane.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you can stay tuned. If you ain't got too much going on today, we got some other speakers, like I said, that, with Bill Hart and Josh Pitts are next, and both have, great fond memories of Steve as well. So hopefully you can stay tuned.
Absolutely. I'll see you guys on there.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot, Brian.
All right. See you. Bye.
Yeah. All right, everybody. I'm going to just jump right into our next speaker here. So let's bring on Josh Pitts.
Welcome up,
Josh?
Mitch? What's up, dude?
How you doing, buddy? What ocean are you shredding in right now?
Currently in the Caribbean Ocean. I'm down in Curacao, so just off the coast of Venezuela.
Crazy, man. Like we're talking about anything is possible. Like, you're proof of that. Like, when I heard you were packing up and going sailing with your family, I thought, wow, that's crazy. And you're still able to do what you do and love and work and still be able to enjoy like a life that a lot of people probably never will.
And I honestly, Mitch, I have to attribute part of it to Steve. Like, when I first met Steve years and years ago, and some of the things that I'll share, it was because of guys like Steve, who's like, do it. Like, what's holding you back? There's nothing, like, there's no reason you can't go do it. That's just it. Like, we hold ourselves back. We, in our own mental capacity, we can't think outside the box sometimes. It's guys like Steve that help me to understand and see that there's so much more to this world. There's so much more to life than mortgage, real estate, this and that, sales, that you can go out and make it happen. So I appreciate you and the organization putting this on today. Steve had such a profound impact on so many of us. He was, like I said, one of those people. I mean, listening to Brian and others, and I know Bill, who's coming up, Bill had a very close relationship with him as well, that Steve continually impacted people, whether it was directly or whether it was from the influence of people like myself or Brian or Bill or yourself, who has shared
Right.
his thoughts, his feelings, and ideas. So yeah, grateful for you and the Empire team putting this together to remember Steve and some of the things that he shared with us.
And I do remember the first, I likened this whole event back to when I got Steve on my first, second event. And I do remember after I got him on there, you reached out and you're like, how the hell did you get Steve Sims? Like, how did you get him on your event? And I was like, I just asked and he somehow said yes. And you're like, that's awesome. It's like, because he was a keynote speaker, coming up to be a keynote speaker at Mastermind in Vegas. And, for him to give me the time of day was, showed the kind of guy he was. And like I said, helping really inspire me to, to what I do today. So I'm excited to share, the time with you and these other guys and gals that were impacted by him.
Yeah, no, I think it's brilliant. And like I said, I appreciate the opportunity. Excited to share a few things that I learned from him, from both of his books. Blue Fishing for me was one of those books that after reading it, I read it, I mean, back when it first came out, when it was before it had become popular, somebody had like, hey, have you heard of this book? And I read it, fell in love with it. And then I saw him. Yeah, you had a conversation with him on the podcast. And then I reached out, and then him and I became fast friends very quickly. And then it led to so many different things and opportunities for us both. So yeah, I'm excited to share a few things that I've learned from Steve, and hopefully all of those who are listening, who are here today, can learn from.
Awesome, man. Do you have slides or do you?
No, I'm not a slide. Funny enough, like I don't love slides. I have no slides to share. Just sharing a few ideas, sharing a few things that thoughts from Steve shared with me from different conversations that him and I had. Thoughts from both the books. If you guys haven't read either of his books, go do it. Download them. Brian mentioned this. What I love about, I hate reading. I've read both of his books, like actual books, but also go listen to him on Audible. You get a feel for Steve when you listen to his voice. And even after he passed, I went back and I actually listened to both books again. And just hearing his voice, he has one of those voices that is so memorable. And when you hear him, you feel like he's actually talking to you. He just had that way about him. He had such a way of making you feel so important with all the people. He had the opportunity to meet and rub elbows with some of the greatest of our time, but yet he still made each and every one of us feel unique and special and important. And that's who Steve was. And that's why I love him.
Yeah, including the likes of Elton John.
No kidding, right? No kidding. So yeah, go read, go for Stupid, The Art of Achieving Ridiculous Goals, and Blue Fishing, The Art of Making Things Happen. Pick them both up. Like I said, you can pick them up on Audible for basically nothing, and get the book as well. You can get them both on Amazon and pick them up. So what I want to share is just a couple of things. Like I said, 5 things that the lessons I've learned from Steve, and how hopefully you can apply them within. I know I've only got 20 minutes. It's not a long time, but hopefully I can share a few things with all of you that Steve shared with me, and you can go out and make happen as well. And the first one is go for stupid. If you haven't read his new book, it came out in 2022, I believe. Dreaming big is something he talks about a lot, and dreaming bigger than feels reasonable is basically the premise of the book. If you haven't, what I'm doing now, I'm literally living with my family on a sailboat. This is a huge dream. This is something that I never would have achieved if it weren't for guys like Steve, who are like, you can do this. Like, you can dream big. You can achieve these almost unimaginable goals if you're willing to do it. So he said this: the only person stopping you is you. The only person stopping you is you. The only reason you're not living the life you want is because you're not asking for it. Brian mentioned this. Mitch talked about this. You have to be willing to ask. Steve believed that the greatest tragedy in life wasn't failing. As a matter of fact, one of the first times I met Steve in person and was able to have shared dinner with him is I said, Steve, what's your greatest failure? I always thought that was a good question. I'm like, Steve, what's your greatest failure? Steve's like, I've never failed. I'm like, what? I was like, and again, he talks about it in Bluefish. He talks. I'm like, of course you. I'm like, there has to be a failure. He's like, absolutely not, Josh. I've lived my life every single day in a way that, have I made mistakes? Absolutely. Some may call it, but I've never failed. I've never looked at something like, oh my gosh, I failed at this. I've learned. I've gotten better. And that's, he said, if you're thinking about failing in that way, you're aiming far too low and you're hitting. That's the problem. Is if you feel like you're failing, you're aiming low and you're hitting low. You have to change that idea and you have to look at different targets. He also challenged all of us to pursue goals so boldly that others would laugh at or they would joke at us. They'd be like, are you serious? Like, that's just, it's almost, he wasn't afraid to share his scars. Yeah, Brian, billion%. And guys, if you're here, feel free to, my ADHD is going to take over when you're in the comments, but please drop your comments, share your ideas, share. That's what this is about. This is remembering Steve. And again, we're all going to take some lessons away. Brian did a phenomenal job. I know Bill's going to do the exact same. Everybody else is participating in this, but if you have memories of Steve, you have things that you learned from him, drop them in the comments. I'd love to discuss them, and I want you to participate. This is for us. This is for being able to apply what he did for us. He, in the book, again, he called it Go for Stupid. And if you didn't read the book, you have to. Like, I'm going to share bits and pieces of it, but it's just one of those. If you ever met Steve, or if you go listen to his podcast, go listen to some of the things that he shared. He always went for stupid. Like Mitch talked about, some of the things I'll share. He helped people like have dinner with Elton John, have a session with Elton John, do so many. He always went. Steve was that guy. He went for stupid. He's like, and he didn't care. Like, he wasn't like embarrassed. He wasn't like, oh, that was failure. Did he get no's? Yes. But then he always figured out a way in the end to make it happen. He knew that if we didn't dream big, if we just thought small, then that's the way that we'd live. Big dreams didn't happen until you were willing to go and make them happen and dream bigger. Like, that was just his idea. So you don't need permission to think bigger. That was one thing to Steve too. He's just recently, I met a doctor and has an amazing family. And I actually, as I was preparing for this was such a correlation between this and how Steve thought. But this doctor that I met, his son has Down syndrome. And his son, living on the ocean as he and our family are, a lot of times we put cages, or we have these ideas and boxes we put around certain people and ideas. But this doctor's son, who has Down syndrome, he was getting ready to jump in the water, and this lady's like, wait a minute, like, should he have a life jacket on? Should we predict, like, he's going to fall in the water, he's going to drown. And the doctor, he's like, why? Like, he's not going to fall in, he's going to jump in. Well, and she's like, but how? Like, how can he do that? Why can he do that? And the dad's reply is something I will never forget, and it's something that Steve would have said. He said, because no one ever told him he couldn't. That was Steve's mentality. Like, us as human beings, as the world, we like to put limits on everything. Steve never put limits on anything. Anything that he did, Steve was always looking for the big new opportunity, the next big thing, how to go even bigger. And that's something that Steve was absolutely incredible at. You just need the courage to start. One of the reasons I started Shred in the time that I did was actually just after I met Steve. And when I gave him one of our original Shred shirts, I remember he took a picture and sent it to me, and he's like, dude, I'm showing up. Like, I'm hustling today. I'm making some things happen. And I appreciate the reminder. I'm like, yes, let's go. Stop aiming for just enough and go after the vision that actually excites you. Like, what excites you? What gets you up and pumped in the morning? I would doubt it's actually mortgage and real estate. Maybe some of you, that's what it is. But what really, really gets you excited? Write down. I want to give some takeaways, because every time I sat down with Steve, whether it was at dinner, whether he was drinking one of his old fashions, if you know Steve, and I'm sure Bill, like, the dude loved his old fashions. Steve was one of those guys that every time I was hanging out when we were at a bar or a speakeasy, the dude loved his old fashions. But every time I was with him, I wrote down something. I was always jotting down something that he shared with me. And I'll share a few things that like I said, some lessons that Steve had learned from himself. So write down a stupid goal, whether it's about building your brand, if it's in your business. Steve always said to me, and all of us, get started today and get good later. 100%, Mitch. Like, that's something that Steve was always like, get started today and you'll get better. Perfection kills progress. So a takeaway from this is write down a stupid goal for your business, for your brand, something that scares you, something that people roll their eyes at. and take one step toward it. You don't need to accomplish it. That's something that Steve talked about. You're not going to accomplish these BHAGs, these huge goals, these dreamer goals all in 1 week, all in 1 day, all in 1 month, all in 1 year. Some goals take forever. He even said this. Some of the goals that I have, I'm going to be working until the day I die. And that's just how Steve lived. He was always working on something that was making him better, that was improving on every single day. Something in blue fishing that always hit me was make the ask, no matter how big. Brian talked about this. Mitch talked about this. They can't say yes unless you ask. Like I said, Brian and Mitch had just talked about this as well. But we saw this when he achieved, like one of his clients wanted to go see the wreck of the Titanic. We've heard of some of the other publicity and news about some others that have done it recently. Dinner at the feet of Michelangelo's David with Bocelli singing in the background. A couple's wedding officiated by the Pope. Again, Steve made things happen because he was willing to ask. How ridiculous were some of these goals? They were insane. These asks were clearly outside of most people's general, we can probably make that happen. None of these happened because Steve was lucky. I want that to be very, very clear. Steve, he always joked, he's like, I'm not lucky, I'm good. And I always joke, I'm like, Steve, sometimes it's better to be good than lucky, or lucky than good. And he's like, but I'm not lucky, I'm good, Josh. Like, I can do these things because I have surrounded myself with the right people. I do ask the right people. They happen because I ask boldly, I ask clearly and unapologetically. That's something that Steve was he was unapologetic. Like, if you got no, Brian said, if you got the no, we got the no. He already had the no, so why not ask for the yes? Because if he got the yes, then he was one step closer to what he was hoping to achieve. So if you want your business to grow, if you want your brand to be seen, you've got to ask for things that may feel just outside of your reach. And that's just it. They may be just barely outside of your reach. They may not be as far as you think they are. They may be right inside of your reach. You just haven't asked. The next client, the next podcast invite, Brian talked about this, the next stage you're going to be speaking from, it's just one question away. So my takeaway with this is make one ridiculous, bold ask this week. Write it down along with one of your other goals. Write down a ridiculous ask, whether it's pitching to a new partnership, a client testimonial of somebody you worked with recently, somebody reaching out to somebody who inspires you. Recently, I actually did this. I reached out to an old mentor of mine. I reached out to him and he actually made a social media post. Brian's mentioned this and hopefully he's still here because I want to give him credit for this. But one of the first ways that I got in touch with Steve was actually through Facebook. The original ways, I sent him a Facebook message and he responded. And I was like, what the heck? And it was actually him. And the next thing I knew, I had his number and we were texting. So people still, to this day, social media is my business. People still, even if they have millions of followers, yep, I'm still here. Let's go, Brian. People still check their own social media. I still do. I don't have millions of followers, but I still look at my messages. I still want to see who I'm interacting with, who in my community is engaging with me. I'm way worse at checking my text messages, but my social media feeds, my DMs, I check those quite often. So make one ridiculous ask this week, whether for yourself or do it in memory of Steve, because that's what he would have done. Number 3 is refuse to be mediocre. I think Steve emulated this in so many ways. Steve was that guy who was never mediocre. His quote is this: "We live in a society that celebrates average. Stop fitting in and start standing out." Steve didn't believe in doing what everybody else was doing. He dressed differently. That's, as a matter of fact, there's a lot of conversation or question of who started the whole hat idea in the mortgage industry. And Steve and I actually just when he was starting going through some procedures and stuff, him and I had a conversation and he's like, Josh, do you remember like the first time we met? And I said, yeah, actually, I remember it quite vividly. Why? And he's like, do you remember like why I was so taken back because I thought you were some random, he's like, I thought you were on the AV team. I didn't know you were a headline speaker at the event where we were both speaking at. And I said, it's a hat and beard. I don't get it. Yeah, it's a hat and beard. It's all good. But Steve said, you were a headline. You were the only other guy who was sharing a stage with me who was wearing a t-shirt. You were wearing a hat. He's like, I was just wearing my black t-shirt. Steve was notorious, like he had his black t-shirt. I was wearing my black and yellow on my colors. They've been my colors for years. And he's just like, the fact that you took the stage after me, I was like, holy cow, this kid. And he's like, this kid is going on when all the other mortgage industries, like I looked at everybody was suit and tie, dressed up to the nines, like they were look good. And then you went out there and talked about marketing, social media, and you were in a hat and a t-shirt. He's like, I was blown away. He's like, you were unapologetic. He's like, I knew that. He's like, I knew you weren't mediocre. I knew you weren't trying to fit in. I knew you were trying to be different. I shared my story about one of my first events in a real estate in New York. And he's like, dude, you're unapologetically you. You didn't want to be mediocre. You didn't want to just fit in with everybody else. You want to be different. I did. And that's how Steve and I became fast friends. It was later that night, him and I went to dinner and had just an amazing conversation. In a world addicted to safe and polished, real and raw is what really wins. And that's something that Steve shared a lot. Steve always said, if you have an ask, you better have something that benefits the person you are. Absolutely. It's got to be mutually beneficial. The ask always has to be mutually beneficial. Or, hey, if I'm asking for this, how can I help you achieve this? 100%. Your brand shouldn't be watered down. It shouldn't be a soft version of yourself. Be bold with who you are. Show up in your content. Recently, I got asked by a company. Some of you may know I'm the founder of Shred-it. We're an all-in-one video editing platform for mortgage and real estate professionals. I keep getting asked this idea of AI and like, hey, when can you start copying people in AI and make them, AI avatars? And I said, I will never do that. Here's why: is you're faking your brand. And Steve and I are on the same page with this. AI is a beautiful tool. But the day you start replicating yourself and you show up as an AI avatar, you start creating distrust with your community. You start creating not a real person of you. Sure, you may think it's you, but it's not really you. AI will never actually be you. There's no chance of it. You are very uniquely you. God created you because you're you. You have unique traits, abilities, mannerisms. Even the best of the best AI will never be able to replicate you perfectly. And if you think that, you're crazy. The one way you can create trust, respect, reputation, relationships, which I'll talk about here in a minute, is being real and showing up. So really go this week. And my takeaway from this is audit your personal brand. Again, social media is my game. It's helping you build a personal brand that connects and builds relationships with your community, not your audience, your community, the people that you know, like, and trust you. What part have you been hiding to fit in? Again, I'm unapologetically me. I've had people in the past ask me to wear a shirt and tie, not wear my hat. And I'm like, this is who I am. I don't do it because I'm like trying to go against the norm or this. I'm just me. I want to be me. I'm unapologetically me. And if that doesn't fit for what you're looking for, then that's okay. Post something bold, personal, uniquely you that breaks the pattern of who you normally are. Really share with your community in the world who you are. That's something that Steve always did. He was never scared to share the real, the authentic, genuine self. Execution beats ideas. Number 4, execution beats ideas always. This is Steve's quote. Ideas are shit. Execution is the game. And this is something Steve, and he would say this, Steve wasn't always the smartest guy in the room, but he was the guy who always got things done. Always. And he loved saying things like, I am definitely not the smartest guy in most rooms I walk into, and I don't want to be, but he's like, I didn't wait for a perfect plan. I just acted. I asked, as been mentioned. He showed up and over again. That's why he loved the shirt. And he sent pictures in his shirt a couple times. He's like, dude, I showed up again. I love your acronym. You got to show up. You got to hustle. You got to repeat every day. You just got to show up. So you can see my big old behind me. And one of the last conversations I had with him, he's like, dude, keep showing up. Like, keep continuing to be that person that you are unapologetically. And I said, Steve, I will. Like, that's something. And this is when I actually found out that he was sick. I said, dude, I will always continue to show up. I will always continue to be there for my community, for others, because of guys like you, because you have given back to so many people for so many years. You can have 1,000 ideas, but 0 videos were going to get posted. 0 things are going to happen unless you go out and do it. 0 relationships are going to be followed up on. you're not building a business. You're daydreaming if you have just ideas and you're not executing on them. And again, that's what Steve was all about. You have to execute. Ideas are shit. Go out and execute on them. The winners are the doers in this life. Steve told that to me in one of the last events that we were both at, that we both spoke together. He literally said, the winners are the people who are actually doing. He's like, look over this audience. And there was a couple of us standing there. And he said, look over all these people here. He's like, there's thousands of people here. You know, we're all speaking on stage. He says, maybe 10 of them are winners. He's like, they're going to be the ones who go in, like, sure, some of them will go out and they'll improve this, but 10 of the people in this room are the doers. They're going to hear one or two things from this event that we're speaking at, and they're going to go implement, and they're going to absolutely crush it. They're going to do something with what they learned today, and they're going to make a difference. And I remember standing there, and again, there was a couple other people standing there with me, and I remember that hit so hard, that if you're not willing to execute on the things that you hear, the things that you're learning, today is a perfect example. That's why I wanted to give a takeaway, was just because of this, because of what Steve shared with me in that moment. If you're not willing to go and do and to act, Nike crushed it with just do it. What there's not a better, simpler, and honestly, Steve referenced that all the time, just do it. He's like, I wish I would have come up with that slogan. We'd all be, he's like, I'd be a billionaire if I did, but just do it. There's no simpler action or no simpler mantra than just go and do it. Go act today. So my takeaway from this is commit to one habit that is going to move you forward, whether it's posting 3 short form videos a week, send 5 follow-up messages, batch create content every Thursday or Friday. Don't just plan it, execute it. Again, plans fail unless you're willing to execute. So got to make it happen. And the last one, I know I've only got a few more minutes here, but number 5 is relationships are the ultimate ROI. I would say the number one lesson I learned from Steve is this: is people don't care how much you know, they care about how much you care. This is a direct quote from Blue Fishing. And this is something that we've all heard. I say it frequently, and I reference Steve on this. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I say it a little bit differently than Steve, but it's still the same idea. But Steve truly did, as Brian mentioned, as Mitch mentioned, as I mentioned, relationships were the ultimate ROI for Steve. Always people he met, the people he introduced me to. Brian even mentioned the people that he met through Steve, you continue to rub elbows with, you continue to have conversations with. I know Coach Bill Hart is going to say something similar, like relationships to Steve were important. The fact that Steve reached out to me, I reached out back and forth a couple of times via text messages, but when he reached out, it was out of the blue. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's like Steve's texting me. Steve didn't build a business by being slick. He didn't build it by, salesmanship. He built it by showing up for people. I want that to sink in. Like, that's what he was in the business of, was people, building relationships. He remembered their birthdays. Like, no joke, every single birthday of mine, he texted me like, dude, happy birthday. And I was like, a guy like I can't even imagine how many contacts Steve had, and how many, like, the Elton Johns, the Elon, the people that Steve rubbed elbows with, the Bill Harts, the Brian, like, there were so many people that Steve knew, but without fail, I got a text from Steve. Just happy birthday, dude. Hope you're well. It was never something big, or it was just something simple. He asked what really mattered to them too. The first dinner Steve and I ever had, we started talking about, he asked me why I wasn't drinking. He said, Josh, like, you want an old fashioned? You want to drink? I said, no, I don't drink. I do it for religious purposes. And he's like, really? Like, and he's like, oh, you must be one of those Mormons. Of course, we got into it. And I said, yeah, I am with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And he cared about it. He's like, we don't have the same beliefs, but he was so interested in that. And he asked questions. He really, again, as I mentioned, he made me feel so important in that moment. There were other people around, but him and I, in that moment, he cared more and made me feel like I was unforgettable in his life. Like, we had been best friends forever, even though we had just met that day and then hung out that night. In the end, people never remember what you sold them. They remember how you made them feel. And that's Steve. Like Brian mentioned, I went to some of his events. Or Steve's events. I was able to see him after. The most powerful thing that Steve taught me is relationships are the ultimate ROI in whatever you do, whether you're building a brand, whether you're doing social media, mortgage, real estate, whatever it is people, and the relationships you create with them are your long lasting. The people that Brian mentioned this at the very end too. He still talks with, connects with, has conversations with people that he met through Steve, and I do as well. There are relationships that Steve and I that he introduced me to that I still talk to this day. So my takeaway from this is choose 3 people in your network, in your community, and really go deeper with them this week. Have a conversation with them. Send them a DM, send them a message, a voice note. My boy Kyle Draper, he sends video messages. Give my boy Kyle Draper a shout out. He always, whenever he sends me a message, it's not a text message, it's a video message. So I can see him, I can hear him, I can feel his energy. So reach out to 3 people in your network or your community this week and just ask about them. Just connect with them. That's something that Steve was so good at. That's where the real growth starts. That's where the relationships really are important. So these are just a few of the lessons I learned from Steve. Like I said, I'm honored and humbled for the opportunity to even talk and share some of these lessons I've learned from him. But I hope all of you go take one of the things that I've shared with you and go execute on them, because that's what Steve wants. So Mitch, I appreciate the opportunity, my friend.
Hey, speaking of Kyle Draper, you can't call that guy either.
Yeah, no,
If
you can't.
if you call his cell phone, he will hang up the phone, because the only time he calls is a video call.
Yep.
He will not accept that. He won't accept a regular phone call.
Yeah, you better be doing a video call with him. Small world, I know Kyle. Kyle's awesome. He's a great dude, Brian. But yeah, he's one of those people. And again, he's like Steve. He's one of those people that's always about people and relationships. So, but no, yeah. Steve was an incredible.
Kyle's probably got the biggest heart I've ever seen in a human being, and amazing dude. So yeah, he wanted to be on this. He wanted to be on this event, but he had traveling to Milwaukee, I think, right now, so he wasn't able to make it. So, great guy for sure. But I love what you had to share, man. A lot of great things about Steve, and reliving the memories and the impacts, and like I said, just some of the things that he shared with people, and like you said, he was all about people.
He was all about people. That's the thing, is he loved people, and he was really, like, they were important to him, and that's what's made him so different from so many other mentors. I'm not saying I haven't had a great other leaders and mentors that have really made me feel wanted or important, but Steve just did it in a different way when he didn't have to. He was he was on such a pedestal, and he was such an amazing person that he could have just been like, oh yeah, good to see you, thanks for being here, move on. But he didn't. He made you feel important.
Yeah, I shared this yesterday, but one of my most memorable conversations with him is I called him and he was irritated, and I was like, what's going on? He's like, my neighbor's having a freaking garage sale. And he's like, I can't even get out of my own driveway. And then he's like talking, and then he's like, I was like, well, who's your neighbor? He's like, Chris Brown, the R&B artist. He's like, what kind of famous person has a garage sale? He's like,
that's
you got people
awesome.
out here going through his clothes in the driveway, and there's cars lined a mile down the road.
That's hilarious.
So I just got a kick out of that, because he's like, my neighbor, and then he's like, oh, it's Chris Brown, and to me, that was just the boy from Iowa thought how hysterical it is that Chris Brown's having a yard sale and his, next door neighbor or whatever. Then he was just like, I can't even get out of here.
That was Steve, 100%.
So awesome, man. Awesome. Well, Josh, appreciate it coming to us live from the middle of by Venezuela, you said?
Yeah, middle of the Caribbean, the far southern side of the Caribbean, just off the coast of Venezuela.
That's awesome, man. So you're living life to the fullest, as Steve would say. So keep it up, brother. I love it.
Will do, my friend. Thanks so much. See you, everybody.
All right. See ya. Marion, that is true. It did make the news. All right. Let me bring on our next first sponsor of the day. Bring on Steve with the insurance team. How are you, Steve?
Good, man. How you doing?
Doing well. I'm just going to jump out of the way and give you the stage here. I appreciate you helping us out.
Oh, no problem. Happy to be here. So I am Steve at the insurance team. We are a national broker. We are licensed in 46 states. We have over 90 different insurance companies nationwide. We can provide coverage almost everywhere where some other people can't. Due to our size and our volume, we still have options in California. We still have some options in southern Texas is a tough area, especially Houston area, to get homeowners insurance. Florida's actually starting to open up a little bit. They made a bunch of changes to their laws and stuff. So things are improving there. They really haven't been hit by numerous hurricanes, so they've had a low year for that, which is obviously always a good thing. So, but we're here to help you. We specialize in homeowners insurance. I mean, we do literally everything: auto, home, business, life, and all that kind of stuff. But our bread and butter has been homeowners, working with loan officers and stuff. So we can still help in some areas. Some areas it's almost impossible to get homeowners insurance, which can't get the insurance, you can't sell a house, right? So it's a critical factor that is really starting to affect, especially California. Like even northern Arizona, because of our wildfires, we have 2 companies that will write up in like Payson and Lakeside and those brush fire threatening areas. So there's still options. You just have to find the right agencies that can help. We do guarantee you home quotes back within 2 hours. We have technology in place that can be done. Sometimes it's less than an hour. The only thing we ask is we have to have permission to run people's credit. Credit is run in every state except California. So, but we can get homeowners quotes back to you very, very quickly. I posted our information in the chat. Our phone number, our email for quotes, our website, and we actually have a live Zoom that everybody in our agency sits in all day. We even invite clients to come into our Zoom. You want to come in and meet us, hop into the Zoom. It's open 8 to 5 Arizona time. So we're here. We want to help you guys. And one benefit of why we do the 2-hour guarantee, we know a number of mortgage companies requires an insurance quote to be submitted with the loan application. It's going to be a quick preliminary quote to get you going. You know, say we find out they have a dog breed that some carriers won't accept, then we got to make a change. But it's not going to be drastic in the price, but you have all your numbers ahead of time. A lot of people that work with us, the DTI issues we don't seem to have them because we're getting involved so early in the process that it can help you out and you have all your numbers ahead of time.
Awesome. And all your contact information is in the chat. And if anybody needs to reach out to Steve, please do. Like I said, it's because of our sponsors that we're able to put on these events. So please give them an opportunity to help you out in your business if possible.
Awesome. Love to talk to you guys.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot, Steve. I know you've been supporting our events for quite a while, and I appreciate you coming back time and time again to continue to do that.
You bet. Guys, have a good one.
All right. Have a great day.
See you.
All right, everybody. We are going to jump right into our next speaker, one of my favorite guys in this planet, Mr. Coach Bill Hart. How are you?
I'm good, buddy. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm feeling full, if that makes sense.
Makes total sense. I appreciate you expanding on I'm good, because as Steve often talked about, it's easy to just kind of throw out nonsense responses to the question, how are you? So I love your answer. I'm full. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I feel good. And, talking to everybody this morning that's, been impacted by Steve just makes me feel, even better about putting this event together. And, I got to share that, Steve is one of the reasons I do what I do. And one of the reasons I was able to connect you with Dave Vermillion in the past. And, that kind of stuff just really, it all starts from somewhere. And it all started with me because of Steve. And, like Josh kept saying, think big and then do bigger.
For sure. Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah,
well, I'm excited to hear what Steve taught you. I mean, that's what this is all about. Your segment.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to share it. And, I've got a ton of notes. I assembled a bunch of thoughts, and just prepping for this took me back to just so many cool memories with that guy. And there's a lot of things that I can share, but I think the best way to go about this is to share a couple of stories. And by the way, I just want to make sure that I know how to, if I'm going to show something on StreamYard, I'm looking at the bottom. It's not intuitive to me. Is it the plus sign in the screen?
Yep. Go ahead and hit that. and then I'll add it to the screen.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So let's see if I can come here, share screen. Wouldn't it be nice if at this moment I saw PowerPoint? Just bear with me a minute, guys. This is a slightly different system window.
Yeah, I think at the top it should say
I got it.
slides and
I got it.
PDFs.
Yep.
Perfect.
I got it. So this
There
is
he
my
is.
favorite picture of Steve. It is my all-time favorite picture of Steve. This was during the time when I knew him. He kind of had two chapters. The first chapter was around blue fishing, and so that, you know, that awesome logo on the skull cap there with him screaming some expletive, I'm sure, for the photographer. It's my all-time favorite picture of him. But the first story that I want to share, it revolves around this door. So the way that I got to know Steve is I read Blue Fishing. I loved the book, and I did a little research on him and found out he lived in LA. And I reached out to him, and the next thing you know, he's like, "Yeah, mate, let's have coffee." So that's not a very good Steve sentence, by the way, but
That was pretty good. I give
sounds
that
more-
like an 8.
it sounds more like Steve than it does Mitchell Peak. So there's that, you know. He didn't sound Southern anything as an East Londoner. But yeah, man, we grabbed coffee, and that's where our relationship began. And a short time later, maybe 6 months later, should I stop? Are we both still on the screen?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, just if I need to stop sharing, let me know. But I want this to make the point of the story. So Tony and I get this invite from him. It is completely obtuse. It's like on March 8th at 7:30 p.m. be at this address. Period. That's it. Now, we know the address is in Beverly Hills. We know it's off Rodeo Drive, but it's all we really know. And so, you know, learning a bit about Steve now and his, I don't know if has anybody spoken yet about his sort of his desire to strive for extreme authenticity. Has anybody talked about that yet?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Because I know Josh talked a lot about, you know, being authentically yourself at all times.
Totally. And so the way he tells that story in his books, and by the way, anybody who has not yet read both of his books, make it a point to do so right away. Like get those books. You're going to want to get more of Steve's goodness into you. But yeah, he was all about that. And so at the time, I was driving an 03 Honda Accord with probably 90,000 miles on it. Not the most impressive vehicle to drive to Beverly Hills. So a friend of mine, knowing that this author has invited us to this thing in Beverly Hills, and, you know, Tony and I are both dressed nicely. He said, "Hey, borrow my Mercedes, just take my Mercedes." And I said, "No, see, that's exactly not who Steve is." The first story he tells about in Blue Fishing is about taking a picture, leaning up against a Ferrari with a yacht in the background in Monaco. And he said, "I've never been so fake in my life. Like, that's just not me. It's not who I am." You know, if you knew Steve at all, you knew that what he really enjoyed was being with his family and working on his motorcycles. Like, that's the stuff he valued the most. He wasn't about money and stuff and flash. And then there was another one where there was a reporter in Florida. While they were based in Florida, Blue Fishing was the concierge company where they created these amazing expenses. And the guy said, we want you in a full suit in front of a private jet. Like, that's the image that we want to have for the article. And he said, again, I just felt like I needed a bath when I was done. Like, this is not who I am. So getting back to Beverly Hills, Tony and I pull up in my 03 Honda Accord. And there is a woman. This is a subterranean parking lot. It doesn't look like it in that image, but that's what this is. You can kind of tell by the height of the ceiling. it's a subterranean parking lot. That pole there in the forefront separates the driveway from that area that you walk onto with the tile. And that door back there is an elevator. And so this woman who is dressed in black slacks, a white top, holding a clipboard, headset, walkie-talkie, says, "Come this way, please." Now, I find out later this is Claire. This is Steve's wife. We had not yet met, but she just appears to be, a minion, right? Somebody that apparently works for Steve. So she walks us over to this elevator, and we get in the elevator having no clue what's going on. And she hits the button, and we go up to a floor, and the doors open, and we're on the top floor, the penthouse of Tiffany's Beverly Hills. Had no idea. Standing just immediately outside the elevator as we egress the elevator is a guy with a tray full of old fashions, because I'm sure you've heard the old fashioned being mentioned once or twice by previous guests. Like, he was a fan of a good old fashioned, and taught me, by the way, that a proper old fashioned does not have a cherry in it. And the reason is, he said, because 100, 120, 140 years ago, when people were making old fashions with cheap whiskey, they would put a cherry in it to sweeten it, to mask the taste, like the taste that wasn't good. So you'll argue with bartenders, but in my home, we don't include a cherry in an old fashioned. And I don't care if it's the expensive ones from Trader Joe's, like, no cherry in your old fashioned. You can have an orange slice. That's cool. So there we are. Champagne. There's a woman with a tray of champagne flutes, the guy with old fashions. We walk in, and this is us with Steve on the penthouse floor of Tiffany's. And we don't know any of these people. They don't know us. And Steve just kind of starts explaining, okay, so here's where we are. Sorry, I'm trying to get this to advance. You can see Steve in the center there, and he's just explaining where we are, why we're there. This is about 2 weeks before the Oscars, and you can just see it's just the height of luxury. And that little glass table in front of him there has got, I don't know, a $3 million necklace, in it. And as you continue to walk around, like, here's a picture of Audrey Hepburn from the Breakfast at Tiffany's era, and it's a letter from her to Tiffany's. And so as we leave, I took one more picture there, because this is where we were. We just didn't know, we didn't know that's where we were. And so that's probably the most emblematic story that I can tell about what a fascinating guy. Like who does stuff like that? Who invites you to something, doesn't tell you what it is, only gives you a time and place. And then when the doors open, it's like, oh my goodness, I've been transported to something amazing. And Tony and I start talking to people, and there's a couple there from Australia, and they're just flown in for this. Like, this is why they were there. They were going to do other things in LA, but they knew Steve from other events. And so those are the types of things that Steve loved to do. He loved to orchestrate events. As I think about, some of the other things that came to my mind, I don't know if anybody remembers. I'll probably repost it now, Mitch, because I think it's a good time to put some of this stuff up. But a year later, he reaches out and says, "Hey, mate, want to go to jail with me?" And I'm like, "No, not really. I'm not really interested in going to jail. Tell me more." He says, "Well, I've got a group of about 30 entrepreneurs and coaches that I want to take up to Kern County, which is up towards Bakersfield in Southern California. And if anybody knows that, with apologies to anybody who's currently in Bakersfield, nobody actually wants to go there. I don't know what the equivalent of that would be in Texas, but it's like, there's a reason there's a prison there, right? So It is a level 4 maximum security prison. There are 3,700 inmates there who have done some pretty awful stuff. And there were 66 of them that have been identified by this charity. It's called Defy Ventures, that Steve worked with, that had said, I want to write a proposal for a business idea that I've got when and if I get out, but I'd like to have somebody speak into it and sharpen me. And so I'm going to go back to sharing here. Sorry, I wish this was so much more intuitive. If it were Zoom or Teams, it would be, but I'll get there.
No
Then you
worries.
click on window. Yep. Then you click on window. You go back to the PowerPoint. And so this is an image. I mean, check out the tats right on this guy's neck. This is me with one of the inmates, and this is one of the things that I posted afterwards, that it says, man, speaking hope to someone without any, man, that's a gift. And these guys had no hope. They had no hope. But this charity provided an opportunity for them to ideate. Now, you think about it. Somebody who's a convicted felon, they're not going to be applying for a job at Nordstrom selling shoes with tattoos of teardrops under their eyes and across their knuckles. And it's not going to happen. But they had some very creative ideas. And these were businesses that the criteria was, you had to turn a profit within 6 months, less than $20,000 of capitalization, nothing to do with drugs or sex or, any of the obvious. And so you had guys with some really clever business ideas, and some of them were just so wild hair crazy that as a coach, you had to kind of speak into them like, well, I love the idea, but like, what if? And so that's what we did, spending time with these guys. All of this was orchestrated by Steve. And there's a moment, Mitch, where so all these guys are dressed in their blue, jumpsuits, and the coaches and entrepreneurs are dressed like me. I've got a Steve Sims black t-shirt on there because that's all he wore, basically. I know I'm not showing it at the moment, but in that last image, that's what I was wearing. And so he had this moment where he said, okay, everybody line up at this yellow line, the inmates on one side, coaches and entrepreneurs on the other. So picture just a yellow line in it's a gymnasium, and it's right down the center of the floor. And he said, okay, I want you to spend, how long was it? I don't want to misquote this. I think it was 30 seconds, and it felt like an eternity, staring into the eyes of the person across from you. Now, if you think about eye contact, right? Eye contact is an interesting thing. In the normal world, not in the prison system, you want to make eye contact, but you also don't want to linger too long because that could be a little weird. On the other hand, somebody that doesn't make eye contact with you, that feels strange. It's like a 17-year-old kid that kind of hadn't figured it out yet. Like, eye contact's a good thing. But in prison, they'll stick you if you stare at them too long, right? So we're forced to make eye contact. So then he says, okay, if you like country music, I want to make sure I get this right. I want you to take a step back from the yellow line. So a lot of inmates took a step back, and a lot of coaches and entrepreneurs took a step back. But then he started asking questions like, if you heard gunshots when you were growing up as a child in your neighborhood, take a step back. All the inmates took a step back. None of the coaches and entrepreneurs. If you felt unsafe, if there was violence in your home, and so you could sort of just see like, man, my experience as a kid was not their experience. It was completely different. And you began to see the human side of this, like, okay, these guys aren't just idiots that did this stuff because they thought it was an easy way to make a buck. A lot of them it was, or they were anger issues or whatever, but a lot of it was environmental. And so Steve teed that up, right? He teed up that opportunity that really, Mitch, was life-changing for me. And I will post that today on LinkedIn. That's where I wrote that story. I'll put it back up to get today on LinkedIn. I want everybody to read the whole story because it will help you to see things through a different light. But my whole point about this is that happened because of Steve. Dude, we went up there on a bus and everybody's laughing and giggling and, nervous laughter, right? And then as soon as you got off the bus, you realize there is nothing green around here. Everything is beige. This is a maximum security prison. The guards tell us as we go in, they say, hey, just so you know, we don't fire warning shots. And they're not kidding. Like, they're not freaking kidding. So, I had this unbelievable experience in Beverly Hills with Steve, with my bride. And then I had this unbelievable experience in a level 4 maximum prison in Kern County because of Steve. And so everything in between, though, is the magic of what made Steve remarkable. So if anybody spent any time with Steve, you know that one of the things that he would not do is to suck up to you. He just didn't. And I don't think he did it with Elon Musk or Richard Branson or, any other Bocelli, Elton John, Sir Elton. He spoke truth, and that was just sort of his superpower. And so at lunch one day, we started talking about my business. And this is when I was with Building Champions, Mitch. So I'm a coach. I have no salary. My entire income is commission from coaching clients. And it is before COVID. This is probably 2018. The market's still pretty good, right? In the mortgage and the real estate industries. So I'm working it pretty heavy. I'm doing a lot of videos, a lot of content. I'm speaking at a lot of events, and speaking was a big part of my income at the time. So it wasn't just coaching, trading hours for dollars as a coach. It was also speaking engagements. And back then I was getting 12 grand for a talk, whether it was for an hour or a day. And, for some people that's not much at all. And for others, it's like, okay, that's a good chunk of cash. Well, for me, that meant if I was getting one or two of those a month, that made a difference, in my income. This is before I joined Movement, and that whole model changed for me. And so I was in the hustle, I was grinding. I needed to do what I could do to build my business. And dude spoke truth to me. He's like, yeah, that's crap. And he didn't use the word crap. I said, okay, what do you see? And he was just all about, don't try and be somebody or something that you're not. Just be you. You're an awesome you. And so if he was talking to you, Mitch, he would just tell you, be the man that you are. Like, step into that, own it, for better or worse. People are going to respect it, and amp up the passion. Like, it's all about passion. In Steve's world, if you can hear him in your mind's eye right now, any interview I ever either did with him or heard him do, there was always just this, like, his vocal cords were strained because he was so excited about what he was talking about. Always. It was never, well, yeah, I was a bricklayer in London, and then I did this, and then I did that. That's not Steve. He was always fired up. He was just always fired up. So yeah, man, that's the other thing. Let me come back around to my notes here, and then I've got just a couple more quick images that I want to share with people. But there's a few key things that I wanted to make sure, particularly if nobody else had talked about it, I wanted to make sure that I brought it up. So I think everybody knows at this point, he had been referred to as the real life Wizard of Oz. Has that come up? Has anybody talked about the incredible events that he orchestrated? Okay. So, I mean, I think most of you now have heard, he was the son of a bricklayer. And there was a moment in time in East London, he's on a ladder, he's looking back down. And if you think about how that's done, like on a wall, there's literally people passing buckets of bricks up with mortar. And so he had this out of body experience where he's like, if I don't get out of this now, this is my future. Because I'm looking at my dad, my granddad, my uncle. And that's where he decided that he was going to step out and he was going to do something different. And he tried all kinds of things, and you can read about it in the book. But to me, what's fascinating about this is he ultimately became a bouncer at a club. And, you know, he looked the part, right? That first picture that I showed, like he looked the part, bald, big ass goatee, pierced, whatever that is up above your eye. You're just a badass, you know, loved motorcycles, always wore black. And he was not afraid to, you know, kick somebody's ass if that's what needed to happen. But what he learned was, I can actually, people kept asking questions like, hey, can you get me into that? And, you know, where would I rent a Ferrari? And he just kind of became known as the guy that could make things happen. And so from there, he created this like ultra concierge business where, you know, there's so many great stories about this, but one is somebody wanted to get married in the Vatican. He coordinated that, as well as dinner at I think it's called the Uffizi Galleria in Florence, where the statue of David is. So a table for two is set up after the museum is closed. The guy and his girl, and Bocelli, like Andrea Bocelli, the opera singer, sings for them. Like, it's unbelievable. He's got other examples of, drum practice with ZZ Top, multiple different concert venues where backstage, on stage, like, you dream it and we'll figure out how to deliver it.
It was kind of like the Make-A-Wish for the extremely wealthy.
That's a perfect way to put it, man. Perfect way to, but without an underlying, you know, physical condition or diagnosis, right? And it is funny. The one distinction he made was, I won't do it for somebody who's doing it to advance their career or their personal wealth. Like, that's not what this is about. It's about an experience. And and so I lived it on a smaller scale. I mean, you know, we weren't eating at the foot of David, but we were hanging out with some pretty impressive people in Beverly Hills on a floor that nobody even knew existed at Tiffany's. And the opposite extreme was the prison thing. Like, dude, it was uncomfortable. But, you know, one of the things I know Steve would agree with is Joe DeSena, the founder of the Spartan race that later sold it to Reebok. If you Google it, you'll see an image of the Spartan logo, and it says, if it excites you and scares the crap out of you, you should probably do it. And that's exactly what motivated me to do my one and only Spartan race. But it's also what encouraged me to go ahead and go through with this prison deal. Because, dude, there's 1,000 things I would have rather done. Like, I live in Southern California. We're 20 minutes from Malibu. Like, let's go have lunch with our toes in the sand. Like, that sounds like more fun. You know, I'm going to go play golf with my buddies. That sounds like more fun. I'm going to go sit in the backyard and read a book. That sounds like more fun. Getting on a bus and going to a prison in the desert did not sound like a good time to me, but it was enormously impacting. And that's my buddy Steve. You know, that's who Steve was. So another little known fact, and I'm going to show you a little peek literally behind the curtain, is if you've ever seen him do a podcast, you probably saw that setup. So that's me interviewing him 2 years ago when he released Go for Stupid. And you don't think much about it, but I mean, let's look at mine, right? Like, behind me, clearly I've got a blue light on my bookcases on one side, red on the other. That's not by accident. I've got that Peter Lick photograph behind me that clients gave me about 7 or 8 years ago. It's all intentional, right? That look. On Steve's side, you see the microphone and you see what appears to be corrugated metal that's slightly rusted, which would be very consistent with Steve's brand, right? Yeah.
I really love this
with
part.
Steve's brand. right? What that actually is a shower curtain. Did you know that?
Yeah, he gave me the tour one time, and
Dude,
I did. He was like, "Dude, you don't have to go big, just get started." And he's like, "Look at me," and I'm like, "Wow."
right? It's absolute genius. I mean, really and truly, if you had a graphic artist or any kind of artist right now and they looked at that image, they'd say, well, it is brilliant because you can tell he was a ginger, right, when he had hair, but as he had gotten older, it went white. So you could see still a little bit of red in the mustache, right? A little bit of white in
Yep.
the goatee and the black in the shirt. Like all those colors are in his background. It's freaking genius. It's absolutely unbelievable. And so that's just a peek
another
behind the curtain.
unknown fact is his microphone is sitting on 5-gallon bucket.
That is also true. And he's in his garage surrounded by Ducatis and BMW
Yep.
motorcycles. And yeah, man. So the final image that I'm going to share is this one. And this is just after coffee one day or lunch. I don't remember which. We were in Westlake Village, and it's my new Jeep. I had just picked it up, and there was no customization done to it yet. And his, whatever that is, somebody that knows bikes would be able to identify it. That might be a Harley, but I don't know. And it was just a fun picture of two guys that enjoy each other with their rigs in the background. And, it was just those moments are the moments that will forever be with me. And Mitch, we all knew that he was sick. He was posting about it, and I'm sure you remember seeing those pictures where he was wide open about what he was experiencing, yet always extremely optimistic and looking for the lesson in the experience. And I mean, it was tough, man. This was a really tough diagnosis. And it's funny, I was thinking about, I was listening to Josh. I wish I could have heard everybody this morning, but I had coaching calls. But listening to Josh just before I got on, and I was thinking about what Josh said about happy birthdays, and I went back to my Steve Sims text string, and have you done that since he passed?
I haven't.
I'll leave it up to you as to whether or not it's a good idea. But for me, I just went back through, and all these memories start coming back. And, there's pictures in there, and there's just, I could go back through 7 years of texts. But the last one, you may or may not be able to read there. But what it says is, on June 8th, checking in, my friend, lunch soon. That's from me to him. And what I didn't know is, he had died the day before. I didn't know that. So, what do you do with that? I look back at my friendship with Steve, and it's not like we grew up together. We became friends later in life. I cherished those lunches with him, those cocktails with him, but I was busy. And he was busy. And if I could go back, I'd do it every week. So what I think Steve would want me to share with you is, when somebody walks across your mind, when you think of somebody, reach out to them. Send them a video like Kyle Draper does. Send them a voice message. Schedule lunch. Schedule that cocktail. Don't let it go by. The Bible tells us, teach us to number our days so that we may have a heart of wisdom. Steve didn't know he was going to die this young. I don't know how long I've got, but I do know there are relationships that matter to me. There are people that I care about. And I know Steve would say, screw it, mate. Make it happen. Get together. Reach out to that person. Tell them you care about them. I texted Claire, his wife, as I was thinking about this presentation. And I just said, hey, I just want you to know how much I loved your husband. And I said, I don't know what the right thing to do is. I don't know if the right thing to do is to just let you grieve and not stir it up, or to go ahead and say, I just want you to know I'm thinking about him. And she said, and this has now been, what is that? July, August, September, 90 days or so, almost exactly 90 days. And she said, Bill, it makes me so happy when I know people are thinking about him. So that's my message. That's my encouragement. If somebody walks across your mind, reach out to them. Tell them you care about them. Tell them you love them. Schedule that lunch. Schedule that cocktail. And don't let that go by, because none of us know how long we're going to be here. And Steve was the kind of guy I would have spent a lot more days with if I knew we only had a few. So those are the lessons I learned from my buddy. Anything you want to dig into deeper?
Whew. You got me.
Right there with you, brother. Right there with you.
The one thing that, you said Steve loved motorcycles, but people don't understand. He lived in Hollywood and he didn't own a car.
It's totally true.
They bought a Ford Bronco when they first came out and hated it, I think.
Oh yeah, no, he returned it with a very strong letter to Ford. Like,
yes,
this piece of crap, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah,
he hated every
excited.
bit of it.
He was excited that he finally owned a car, and and then he hated every minute of it, and gave it back. So
he did.
Yeah, so that's a guy that lived life his way, by motorcycle.
He totally did.
People are like, well, how do you get around if it's going to rain? He's like, I live in LA. What do you mean rain? Like, I don't have to worry about that for
it's not a
most
thing.
of the life.
It is not a thing. Yeah.
Awesome.
Well,
man.
dude,
hey,
it was buddy, I appreciate you, and I appreciate you thinking about this. I love this idea. I love this idea that, and I assume this is recorded and people can share it, and I highly encourage them to, because this is a life that had enormous impact. He had a genuine ripple effect that was just enviable. And so maybe that's the last thing that I want to share is be challenged, right? Be challenged to live larger, to live more passionately, to be more genuine, to be who you are and louder and have an impact, because Steve did.
Yep. And his ripple effect will continue for lifetimes from guys like you and guys like Brian and guys like Josh that live what they taught us.
Yeah, man.
Or what he taught us.
Totally. Well, thanks for the opportunity, Mitch. I appreciate it.
As always, man, I appreciate it. So we'll talk soon.
All right, brother. Take care, buddy.
See ya. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Whew. All right. Coach Bill Hart. Everybody go give him a follow if you're not on LinkedIn, because he's going to be posting about his stories with Steve that he's going to bring back from his days at the prison. I heard a lot about that from both of them, and to take that time to try to have an impact on people that were hopeless is just proof of the kind of person that Steve was. And another amazing part of it. So we got just a little bit of break here before we bring on our next speaker. So give us just a minute here to regroup. And anybody in the audience that's here watching today have spoken to Steve or read Steve's books, anything. And like I said, if you have, let me know. If you haven't, like everybody else has said, go do it today. Like go on Amazon, buy the book, or get the Audible, because hearing it from the mouth of the man himself is awesome. And I remember his doing that. He always thought that it was kind of weird that he was recording his voice of his own book and doing the narration of it, and always laughed at himself a little bit for it. But he always shared that like he did with everything else with, with the audience on Facebook and social media. So it was, it was funny to see because it was kind of like you're reading your own autobiography. To him was a little strange based on the man he was. So, that was always a fun thing to see, him talking about that. And I think it is amazing that he did it because now people like me and Bill can go back and Josh can go back and hear it and hear his voice. People that never got to meet him that are on this call can go back and listen and kind of hear, what we get from him over the years. So very cool. So I highly suggest going out and getting those books. I'm going to go ahead. We are going to bring on our next sponsor. So give me 1 second here to grab Megan from the green room here. Welcome, Megan.
Hello, welcome. How's it going?
Oh, it's going well. I appreciate you joining us. And as always, I appreciate Hancock Processing, always supporting our events and helping us bring these events for free to the audience. So appreciate you being part of that and everything that you guys are doing over there.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm very happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to give you the stage. So do you have slides or are you going to just speaking?
Just speak today. I figured short and sweet. And I know we had Trevor visit yesterday to talk as well. So I guess I'll share a little bit of my background. I'm the Director of Operations at Hancock Processing, have been since December last year. My background, I guess, in the mortgage industry, I started in 2020. I was in hotels prior to that point, and I was a loan officer for 2 years. One of my friends who was a broker introduced me to Hancock Processing and said, "Hey, you got to call this guy." And I told him I was like, "I'm new to processing, but I'm here to learn." I was a loan officer for 2 years, and I trained under him, became our top funder, and now I'm working in leadership. I always, like to share a little bit about how we work, our packages, of course, of what we offer. So one of our philosophies, of course, is proactive processing. We always say if you're having to ask your processor for an update, it means we're not doing our job. We set our expectations on touching the files twice a day, so you should have notes in your LOS portal daily. And also, we work how you work. So we have a variety of packages, of course, 3 different packages. Streamlines are separate. Our most popular is package A. So on a purchase, of course, if you're under contract, you'll assign the processor to the loan in the LOS portal, whether it's Arrive or Lending Pad, send them a handoff that details the story of the loan, where the file is going, what pricing might be assigned, any other details that they should know. And then we're going to open title, get an HOI quote right away if you have a preferred contact, scrub the initial docs, and then we're going to export the 3.4, put it in the lender portal, and send you a draft of disclosures. Ideally, if a file is handed off early enough in the day, that should all be done same day. And by that point, once we get an approval from you on disclosures, we send the file out, call the borrowers to e-sign, and then once it's signed, we're going to scrub everything and submit to underwriting and order the appraisal. So ideally, that's all items that should be done same day. We aim for, CTC 2 weeks by the time the file is handed off. But of course, sometimes we're waiting on that appraisal. And then with package A, of course, we take it through all the way through post-close audit. We have a standard audit guide that we do in the LOS portals. If you have one that's custom, then of course that's something that, we're going to follow your guide as well. We're familiar with C2, with Barrett, with Edge, all of the other big places, and even smaller shops too. So that's package A. Package B, of course, we're going to take that one over once the file is e-signed and we have disclosures already. And then, at that point, we're operating off the assumption that the borrower has been properly pre-qualified. So those upfront initial docs are already available. Same thing, take it all the way through post-close audit. We don't stop at CTC. With package A or A plus LOA. So this is a newer one we launched. We're coming up on a year since we launched this option. So we're asking, have that completed 1003 and a credit report. And then when you hand it off to us, we just want to know if it's a purchase that they're looking to close within the next 30 to 60 days. If it's a refinance, we are operating off the assumption that they're ready to move forward immediately. Of course,
Megan, I think we lost you. Can anyone else still see Megan? Megan, are you still there? Oh. Well, it looks like we lost Megan. Sorry about that, folks. We're going to bring on our next speaker, and I will give Megan more time here later in the day. So give us a second here to bring on our next speaker. Mike, how are you, my friend?
Good, brother. How are you?
Doing well. Today is going well. Emotional, but good. So
I hear you.
as you know, we're here to honor our friend, the great Steve Sims. I don't know if you knew him or got to follow him at all when he was with us, but today is all about him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm excited to have you on. I know you're going to be here to help us with video marketing and how to be better at that, which we all need to be. So I know your talk is, are you invisible or unforgettable?
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see where that takes us.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I will I'll keep an eye on my time too. How long are you sticking me to? Are we at 25 minutes?
You're good until 11:35.
Oh dang. You gave me an extra 5. Thanks, man.
Yeah, you're good.
I appreciate it. Hopefully the people actually like that.
Absolutely. I know you always have good stuff, so I'll give you a little extra time.
Cool. Thank you, man. I brought a big slate today. I have a lot to go over. So it's going to feel like rapid fire, but we're going to go for about a half an hour or so. And
Okay, perfect.
And you're right. Like the talk today is about, are you invisible or unforgettable? And we're talking all about visibility today. Thank you for teeing me up on the video content thing, but there's a lot of this stuff that can be applied to almost any area. So if you have questions in the middle of this, go ahead and toss them in the comments. I'm keeping an eye on those. Mitchell, I'm sure will be keeping an eye on those as well. But if you have any specific questions, toss them in the comments. I want this to be a little bit interactive, so don't be shy when it comes to that stuff, but I'll just go ahead and get into it. This is all about visibility and staying top of mind as a mortgage professional. And the reason that visibility is so important is, you can prove it to yourself every time you walk into the grocery store. I use the salad dressing analogy all the time. If you walk into the grocery store and you need to get some salad dressing, and don't even worry about the flavor. Who cares what your preference is? If you're not a blue cheese person, that's fine. I'll forgive you. Whatever you're in the market for, if you need a salad dressing, you're going to go to the aisle and the section where the salad dressings are kept. And if a salad dressing brand does not exist on the shelves there, they have no chance at winning your business because you can't see them. That's why nobody says, hey, can I get my salad dressing over in the, over by the steaks? Like, it doesn't make any sense. It's the same reason that people who tend to shop in grocery stores are hardly ever going to buy like a consumer direct salad dressing that's only sold online. If you are not visible to the consumer that you need to be visible to when it's time for the transaction or leading up to it, then you're not going to get the at-bats. Visibility is all about getting at-bats because it's not incumbent upon anyone to remember you. It's your responsibility to make sure that they never forget. And the first point that I want to talk about here is the power of consistency. And this is the dead horse that's been beaten for days and days, years and years. The power of consistency. Everybody says consistency is the thing that works, but it takes so much effort and work. Well, the reason that everybody talks about it is because that's the one foolproof thing that works, guys. That's the one thing that can make up for lack of dialed in messaging, lack of a strong corporate brand backing you, lack of, perceived production value, lack of insert the thing that you are lacking here. Consistency is the one thing that can overcome that. And all the reps that you give when you are consistent, that makes you better at everything else that's involved here. So don't worry about quality. Focus on quantity and value and just keep showing up because people forget you quickly after every meaningful interaction, like way more quickly than you could ever imagine. Just think about you, like the last time you stopped into a coffee house or at a restaurant. If you ate at a place 3 days ago, it's not top of mind today. If you grabbed coffee from your favorite spot this morning, you're probably not thinking about that in the front of your brain by this afternoon. We do things and then we get caught up in our own world, so we forget that stuff. And you are not part of your target client's world. So they're going to forget about you unless you keep showing up. And visibility doesn't mean showing up once. It's often enough to stay top of mind. It's being consistent in your outreach. And again, we're not even talking about video content here. Don't worry about cameras yet. Just be consistent in your outreach without the spammy robotic drip campaigns that everybody tries to copy and paste. That's doing more harm than good. Maintain relevance by staying consistent and showing up in a meaningful way. It could be a text message. Hey, just thought of you. How things going? It could be some sort of a re-engagement campaign for a past client database that you've lost touch with. Hey, just reaching out. Do some one-to-one. Video messages work. Text messages are fine. Emails are fine. They're probably not going to get read. Video messages tend to cut through the noise and they have a much higher open rate. Things like that can just remind people, even if it's I'm sorry. Hey, I should have been keeping in touch with you. I'm sorry. How things been? Want to catch up? Like just something that's not salesy, not spammy. The outreach is key because my second point here, you need to be their friend, not a tourist in their life. After a client or a referral partner meets you or transacts with you, they shouldn't forget you. But again, that's up to you to make sure that that doesn't happen. Relationships are built on authenticity, not just transactions. And the best way to build that trust is being your authentic self, showing up as that person, the human that they connected with in the beginning, the person that they remember. You got to constantly remind them why they need to stay connected with you. You're not just the mortgage expert. You're a mom or dad or grandparent or golfer or fisher person. I saw Pitts in the chat over here, or a sailor, right? A captain on a boat. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot more to us. Do you like coffee, beer, tea? What's your thing? Are you a steak person, a pizza person, a pasta person? Like these are things that people should know because it makes you more relatable to them. Be yourself, who is also an expert in what you do. That makes you easier to relate to, easier to talk to, easier to transact with. And the best way to show up that way is to quit hiding behind generic automations and content that doesn't reflect your actual value. Your content needs to be personal. And yeah, now we're getting into content because we can't always be visible in front of people physically. We need to scale this. You need to scale you. And you can do that in this day and age through digital visibility because everybody is paying attention to a screen so often. So show up on that screen, show up where they're paying attention, meet them where they are. And your content needs to be personal and engaging. And it becomes engaging because you're just being a real human being. You're not getting up on a virtual stage and selling to people. It's the worst. Nobody scrolls their feed looking for commercials to watch, unless it's around Super Bowl time, but it's not. So get over it. You just got to talk with people, converse with people, have a little chat. I know it's going to feel weird in the beginning because there's really nobody on the other end except for, the camera lens, that cyclops that's just staring back at you. But there are real people on the other end of that. And those real people deserve you as a real person. And your automated messages aren't giving that to them. And even if you are sending them out as part of a drip campaign or something in a CRM, be somebody who puts fingers onto those keyboards and thought into those messages. Those should still sound like you. Make sure that you're the one that typed them. Type the message like you're sending an email to your mom, dad, son, or daughter. Right? Like that's the mindset that we need to be in. Whether it's written content, audio content, or video content, we need to be in the mindset that we're talking to a family member or a friend. Because that friendship, that relationship being more authentic will build more trust. Being more human will result in more business. So rework those drip campaigns. Focus on meaningful engagement. Don't just push information to people. And for goodness sake, stop the happy Labor Day drips and the apple pie recipes in the summertime. And it's tired. Nobody likes it. Everybody has enough apple pie recipes, I promise. And the pumpkin pie recipe on the back of the can at Thanksgiving time is the best pumpkin pie recipe, so you don't need to send that out either. The point here, and now we're going to get into what I know and love, the content, right? This is your bridge to visibility at scale. Showing up consistently does mean creating content because not everybody is going to give you the time of day every day in person or via text or over the phone. Maybe when we're mid-transaction, when we're working through the sales cycle, right? But when somebody's not ready to transact yet, or when the transaction's already closed and gone, which is a whole different thing, by the way. Financial advisors view taking a deposit from a customer so they can manage their finances. They view that as the start of the relationship, but for some reason, mortgage professionals view transaction closing as the end of the relationship. And I think it's totally bass-ackwards here because mortgage professionals need to think of that first transaction closing as the beginning of a long relationship where you get to help them manage their debts, much like a financial advisor helps them manage their assets. But that's a different talk for a different day. Content is your bridge to visibility. Showing up consistently. Yes, you have to create content. You have to. It's a non-negotiable. It's 2025. It's been a non-negotiable for years. Are you caught up yet? Because most of the industry isn't, which is why this is still an opportunity for you. And good news is, it doesn't have to be overwhelming. You can use simple, powerful video content to build seriously emotional connections with clients and prospects. All day, every day. Short form videos, 30 to 45 seconds. Easy stuff. They work wonders. You don't need to shoot a movie. You don't need to rent a studio. You don't need a film crew. All of that stuff makes you more unrelatable, actually, because you know what everybody has in their pocket or purse? One of these. And if they see you making video with your one of these, then when they see it, it's just going to come off as something that they can do too. That's a wonderful thing. So lean into those short form videos. Lean into, knocking the microphone here because I'm getting too excited. Lean into using your phone. Lean into the simple things Focus on value-driven content that answers questions that people ask you often. It shares tips that you know because you're in the industry. It builds trust. That video is your secret weapon. It's a digital world today. That's no secret. Video content's more powerful than ever. And there's still a supply and demand issue because people want more video than we can ever produce. It's crazy. And lucky for us, what a wonderful time to live in. This is the first time ever that distribution of video content is free for you. You know, turn back the clock 15, 20 years. The only way you could get video in front of somebody was pay to play. You were running commercials, you were doing pre-roll before movies at the movie theater, some cable advertisements, things like that. There was no way to just make a piece of video content and post it out there and have people see it. Now we take that for granted. It's amazing stuff. And not just on the social media platforms either. It's YouTube. YouTube is huge, second most used search engine on the planet. And then, all the social media platforms too, but video has a place on your website, FAQ sections, more information about specific product pages, adding a little human context, what to expect. Hey, if you click that apply now button up there, here's what you can expect. Having a human explanation for stuff like that is incredible. And then repurposing that stuff on all of the socials all the time, because if you're not, you should be. Any lead, any referral partner, you should be connecting with them on their socials of choice. Because that then becomes part of your CRM. It becomes part of your visibility system. It becomes a way to stay top of mind. Because when they connect with you, they're going to see your first few posts. That's how the algorithms are built. And if you're providing them real value by talking about things that actually apply to them, giving them tips, the little cheat codes and tricks that you know from industry experience that they probably don't. Any question that's been asked to you more than once should absolutely be a video. Not only is it good for them, but it's great for you, because when that question gets asked to you again, you get to say, you know what, I actually made a video about that. Here's this. Let me know if you have any more questions. Tell me what you think of this. And then you're engaging with that person. My buddy Kyle Draper always likes to point out that the human brain isn't wired to distinguish whether somebody saw you in person or virtually, because this virtual stuff is too new for us to have evolved. So like 2 days from now, all you're going to know in hopefully the front of your brain, but in the mid or back brain, all you're going to know is that, oh yeah, you saw Mike talk today. It's not going to register, oh, that was in person. No, you see me. You see my face. You see my eyes. You hear my voice. You see my mannerisms. You are getting to know who I am. I'm a 42-year-old man who dresses like a 5-year-old boy. Like that's who I am. And I'm okay with that. And now you know that about me. And I surround myself with all the things that I know and love. And these are ways that you will subconsciously get to know me without me even trying, just because I'm showing up. You wouldn't get any of this through an audio message. It only comes through a video message. And with it comes the recency bias, the top of mindedness, and the growing trust that will make you more likely to reach out to me if you're interested in any of the services that I provide in the future. Much like the people who are paying attention to your content will be more likely to reach out to you when they're in the market for the services that you provide for them. This video stuff is powerful, and it doesn't take too much. If you're a loan officer, head over to lovideos.com. I have something there for you. But you just need to know that your clients want to see you and hear you, not just read about you. It's easy to read about somebody. Anybody can punch up a few reviews. They want to see you. They want to hear you. They want to feel like what it's going to be to work with you. That lesson was taught to me very early after I started Red Button Media, this agency. I had somebody call me. They were one of my earliest clients. It was 10 minutes into the discovery session, right? The sales call, whatever you want to call it. 10 minutes in, they stopped me dead in my conversational tracks and said, okay, we're good. Where do I sign? Send over an agreement. And I was just kind of thrown back in my chair. And I was like, what are you talking about? And they said, oh, yeah, we were already sold. We just needed to have this call to make sure that you're the same person that you are on the videos. This is somebody who never interacted with a single piece of my content on any platform. Never liked a post. We weren't connected on LinkedIn, which is my digital home. Connect with me on LinkedIn, by the way. I'll accept your connection request automatically. I'm posting stuff all the time, but we had never interacted there. No comments, no likes, no shares, no connection, nothing. But they'd seen every single piece of content that I had posted for the last 4 months. I had no clue. They knew who I was. And I got that sale without having to sell because they were already sold, because I was top of mind, because they knew what I did, because I gave them value for free through my content, because I was just giving it all to them. And they just needed, unbeknownst to me, to know that that wasn't an act. That authenticity is powerful, guys. It's unbelievable. Video humanizes your business. It humanizes your business. It shows your personality, your knowledge, and that you care. You do care, right? Show people that you care. Be a little bit vulnerable sometimes. Hey, I care. This happened to me. It's not great. We all get in bad situations. Just get out there and care more. And do it on the right platforms. That's our next thing we're moving into, leveraging the right platforms, because it's really easy to say, oh yeah, make all this video and then shoot these little things and clips and, sign up for whatever service to get your stuff rolling on autopilot. But what the heck do I do with it? Well, that answer is going to be different for everybody because your audience is paying attention in specific places. Those places are going to be different for every audience. Real estate agents in certain areas are going to be paying attention in different places than, first-time home buyers in their mid-20s who recently graduated college and they're trying to kind of find their way. Those people are paying attention in different places. The important thing for you to do is find out where those places are, or at least make an educated guess. Don't just spray and pray. Make a guess. On social media, is it LinkedIn? Is it Facebook? Is it Instagram? Is it TikTok? It doesn't matter what you think about a platform. If the people that mean something to your business are paying attention there, you should be showing up. But if you're just starting out, the one thing that I like to tell everybody is don't overcomplicate it. You get creators like Hormozy out there, the posting everything everywhere. Gary Vaynerchuk's out there saying you need to be posting 5 to 15 to, or what was 7? It was the last keynote I saw him say it was 7 to 15 times. You need to be posting 7 to 15 times a day on 3 to 5 different platforms to be super relevant and start seeing growth. And the problem with all that is that it isn't wrong, which is overwhelming. Like, it's a lot of weight to put on somebody. But what they're not saying is that you don't need to start there. So don't overcomplicate it. Focus on a couple of platforms. The first one should be the platform that you call home. What is like the social media platform that you spend the most time on? Is it Facebook, Instagram? Is it LinkedIn? Are you always scrolling TikTok? Are you a big YouTube content consumer? I am. I know that. Whatever place you spend the most time, that's where you are going to be most comfortable. So start with like 1 or 2 videos a week. If you're starting from 0, 1 or 2 videos a week on that one platform. Is that going to give you the biggest kind of difference maker type of thing? No, it's not. But it will get you started and it won't set you up for almost instantaneous burnout. And that's the important part, because this is a mid to long-term strategy. Building digital visibility is mid to long-term. Can it work in the next couple weeks? Can you pull a deal from it? Sure, that can happen. But odds are it won't. I like to tell people you're like 6 to 12 months from seeing a meaningful lift. And my gardeners just got here, so I'm sorry if you hear any of that background noise. But we're going to keep pushing through here. Pick one platform that you are most comfortable on. Start getting active there. Build that muscle. Get used to it. A month or two in, pick another platform to expand to. Okay, you started with Facebook. Now it's a natural expansion into Instagram. You can actually link the accounts so they post to both places. That's an easy one. And then maybe we mix in some YouTube, because YouTube gives me some good long-term kind of search engine optimization and search benefits that some of the other platforms don't give. Or maybe it's LinkedIn because you're B2B focused. You want to build referral partnerships, or you're trying to recruit people into your organization. So you want to connect with business people. Okay, LinkedIn, great place for that. Important thing is just to not overcomplicate it and baby step your way there, because it's so easy to burn yourself out. So easy to burn yourself out. Then you master the follow-up game. And don't follow up by saying, hey, just following up. This is not about sending a quick email or a text or just replying to a comment. I'm talking about being present in a meaningful way. And this is not publicly posting things. This is not a content strategy for Instagram that's going to guarantee you virality, which is super overrated, by the way. That's another thing for another time. Nobody needs to be viral to be successful. You just need the right audience. But when you are checking in with people, check in a meaningful way. Follow-ups that actually bring value to your relationships, whether they're customer relationships, transaction relationships, which need to be more than transactional, or referral relationships, or people that you're trying to recruit. Could be recruiting relationships. Video follow-ups stand out. Here's the secret. Hey, how's it going? About what we talked about last week, I had a couple extra things to add. Does it make sense to hop on another call? It takes just as much time to type that as it takes to hit record and say that. And the difference in the response is wild. Video, what most people don't know, is still viewed as a high effort thing to create. And at its core, it is. But in one-to-one communication, when you're going to send a text or an email anyway, it's no higher effort than typing the message. But it's still perceived that way by the recipient. So if you want to make people feel special, and if you want to increase your response rate, and you want to build tighter, stronger relationships faster, start communicating with video messages. Because video is not a post. Video is not, well, video is content, but we've misconstrued content. People think content and all of a sudden, oh, it's part of a marketing strategy and it's for this and it's for that and it's for this. No, it's not. Content is kind of another way to say communication, right? Written content, it's a way to communicate things. Audio content like podcasts and phone calls, it's a way to communicate things. Video content, it's just another means of communication. Video just happens to be the most effective means of communication compared to the other two, because you get the same words that you would write. You get the additional context of actually hearing somebody deliver those words the way that they want to. So you can stress certain things and not stress other things and convey importance. And they also get your face and your eye contact, which gives you that human connection. Use video follow-ups, please. I'm begging you. If you take anything out of this, it's to use video messages instead of texts or emails more than you already do. It cuts through the noise. They are opened and watched / read way more often. And people appreciate it and it makes them feel special. There's literally no downside here, especially because it takes you no extra time at all. So when you show up for your referral partners and those clients, you got to be proactive in staying visible, right? You can't just hope that they remember you. So use your video to introduce yourself to new partners. Create some video content that explains how you can help them grow their business. And that's how you stay in mind for future opportunities. Building those relationships with referral partners is just as crucial as maintaining visibility with clients. Actually, in our industry, it might be more important than maintaining visibility with clients because you can pull tons of deals from a good referral partner. And while every closed client should also be viewed as a referral partner, we know who we're talking about. The referral partners that we like to target are your real estate agents and your financial planners, your divorce attorneys, possibly general contractors tapping into equity, things like that, right? These referral partners are a gold mine for your business, but only if you stay in front of them. And newsflash, that cup of coffee ain't going to get them to remember you that long. You need to stay in front of them. So anytime there's an interesting headline that you have a take on, shoot a quick 30-second video, shoot it to a couple of referral partners. Anytime you see something that makes you think of someone, literally anything, if anything makes you think of a referral partner. If for some weird reason you had this Google TV conversation with somebody and then you finally got one 2 or 3 months later and you saw the remote control and you thought to yourself, hey, that makes me think of Mike. Pull up your phone and say, hey, I finally got that Google TV, man. Saw the remote, made me think of you. How have you been? Just little things like that. They make people feel special. They make people feel special and they keep you in front of them meaningfully as a human. Last point that I want to get to here, it's probably not the last point, let's be honest, right? One of the last points I want to get to here, just because I know I'm coming up on time. I got about 3 or 4 minutes left. Think of content as an investment, not effort. This is the mistake that so many companies make. They think of marketing as a cost center, when in fact, marketing is a way of avoiding opportunity cost. Because make no bones about it, if you are not visible in front of the people that you need to be visible to, someone else is going to be. That's not ROI, that's opportunity cost. It's the cost of not showing up in the right way. So this content, if and when you dive in, and you should, it's an investment. It's not effort. It doesn't have to be a time-consuming grind. Get the right systems in place. Again, head over to elovideos.com if you need that. Or just reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I'll just give you my system for free so you can repurpose it for yourself. Make it simple. Make it effective. Systematize things so you are your most effective you. And then to everybody else, it seems like you're showing up all over the place. And it's going to seem like that because you are. But it's not because, oh, you're killing it and you hired a film crew to follow you around. No, it's because you're intentional and you're effective. Repurpose your content. That thing you made 3 months ago, post it again. Show up again. Nobody's going to remember. Nobody's going to remember that thing. Turn a single video into posts, stories, blogs. Yeah, video content can turn into written content really easily these days. And it's all aligned around being a good human who is also the go-to expert in your niche. You are the thought leader, not the follower. And you will establish that by sharing helpful content that answers questions and solves problems for the people that you want to be in business relationships with. Education-based marketing is more powerful than a generic sales pitch. Share your knowledge, bite-sized, consumable stuff. Don't chase the latest trends. If you get out there and start dancing for views, you've lost already. This is about being consistent and focusing on saving your clients money, sure, but serving your clients and referral sources with actual valuable insights. because they're going to be more likely to transact with that person than the other person who got 1 million views because they did a funny dance, but it did nothing for their business. Your content needs to build relationships, not just sales. I'll finish on this. If you're going to jump into content, put something in the comments right now, or connect with me on LinkedIn and send me a DM that says, I'm starting. Because I want to know. I want to know who to pay attention to. And if that's you, if you're going to jump in on this thing, your goal is not to fill a pipeline with leads. If you want to do that, let me know. There's a lot of places and people that I can connect you with where you can just buy a bunch of leads and start dialing for dollars. That's not what this is. The goal of your content is to build relationships. And the way that you build new relationships is by creating new conversations. So show up often, show up as you, because you're way more amazing than you ever thought you were. And your foundational knowledge is life-changing to some people. So don't discount that stuff. Share the value as yourself and give them a reason to reach out to you just to have a conversation. More conversations, more relationships, more business. You got this. I hit time right on the number, Mitch.
Right on it.
Let's go.
Marson said this is fire. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Marson. Appreciate it.
Anybody
Nothing
have any
else?
questions?
No other comments, man. Everybody's all pulled back and no questions, no nothing. I guess I just covered everything.
I don't see any questions right now.
Man alive.
Let's see. Here we go. Kristen
Thank
said you did a
Kristen.
great job.
Thank
She's
you,
up next. Just waiting for our next sponsor to jump in here. So waiting
Nice.
for anybody who has questions.
Yeah, I'm happy to hang for a bit until they do. Mitch, do you have any questions? Is there anything that you think that anybody would get value out of?
Not really, man. I think you did a great job explaining it. I mean, you got to be in front of people. And
Oh, should I plug
you
the
said-
book for our boy Kyle?
yeah,
I co-wrote a book
yeah.
with Kyle Draper called Rethink Everything: The Power of Video for Business and Sales. We released it a few months ago. It's like 19 or 20 bucks. So head over to Amazon, pick that up. This is the blueprint. If you want to get going in video or up the game of the video that you're doing, this is an easy way to do it. And yeah, a book about video. It's a bit of an oxymoron, but we did it and it's awesome. So that's cool. So there you go. Shout out
It's
to
hard to
Kyle.
have an Amazon best-selling video about videos. So I mean, the book.
That book
just
is
makes-
so full of videos that you like. There's tons of QR codes that link you out to videos where we get to explain on the explain a little more context about the things that we wrote. So it's
yeah.
it
Isn't
was
that
a
cool?
it was
I
a
mean,
really
QR
fun project, man.
codes, you know, you can't do hyperlinks in books, but you can sure do
Yeah.
QR
The
codes.
QRs.
So that's awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
That makes a lot of sense. Awesome, Mike. Well, I appreciate it, man. Once again for jumping in and helping us out and
My pleasure,
honoring
brother.
our friend Steve.
Absolutely,
Like we
it's my
said,
pleasure.
You know, go out there and if you will, for me, go out there and get his book, Blue Fishing.
Yeah,
I think it'll have an impact on you as well. I know it. So grab that book, listen to the Audible if you can, because that's the best part.
Awesome.
And everybody, I appreciate you joining us here. And we're going to jump in with our next sponsor. So give me a second. Thanks a lot, Mike.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good one. All right, everybody. Let me grab our next sponsor here. Mike, how are you?
I want to know how I'm supposed to compete against that background he had.
I know. I'm telling you.
His backdrop
These
is
guys,
next
you know,
level.
like next level backgrounds. You know, you got Kyle Draper and Luke Shankula, and you know these guys that and Coach Bill Hart. I mean, they put together these amazing backgrounds. And when I try to do that, my camera's at the wrong like angle and then it just looks silly. And
It's pure commitment. I mean, I just moved offices, so I have an excuse, but you know, check in with me in 3 months. It may not look much different than it does now.
awesome. You know, I always dream about making a background that has, you know, like my, you know, some Hawkeye memorabilia and Caitlin Clark and, you know, that kind of stuff, but I haven't got there yet.
All right. Well, let's make a commitment together to do that.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Awesome, man. Well, I'm going to give you the stage. You got your 5 minutes here. Are you going to put up a presentation?
Yeah, I will. I mean, I'm mostly going to talk. I'll show a quick demo, guys. I've got 5 minutes, so let's get through this as quick as we can. I'll just start by, you know, introducing myself. My name is Michael. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the founder of Pre-Approve Me, and you know, I've been helping mortgage companies take their brand mobile for over 12 years now. And our platform has obviously come a long ways, but the original reason I built this company was because as a loan officer, I struggled with work-life balance, and that was the direct result of my clients and my realtors needing things from me on the weekends and evenings. And so every feature that we built in our essentially a point of sale platform that's mobile first is designed to help your you know, loan officers or for you to maintain balance while empowering your clients and realtors with the information they need. Okay. So I know today in 2025, it may not be the hottest market in the world. And so maybe some of you aren't feeling that pain of needing more balance in your life from a work perspective. Maybe you guys need more work. So today, what I want to talk to you guys about is a little bit about how we can help you attract more customers, keep them engaged, and maybe score some new realtor partners. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Make sure this works here. Okay, can you see this?
Yep.
Okay, so as I mentioned, guys, we build essentially mobile apps for mortgage companies that serve as a point of sale. Now, I think a lot of people think of point of sale is the acronym POS. What's one acronym we can think of for POS? No, not that one. It's a process of sale, guys. So a process of sale is essentially really what I think people should be focused on. Selling is not an event that takes place at one point in time. It is a process of building a relationship and earning trust. So one of the ways we do that for mortgage companies is we allow for you to curate and build a custom ecosystem for your clients so that when they come to you, it doesn't matter what stage in their life they come to you. They could come to you as a raw lead you meet at a football game, right? If you go Hawkeyes. If you meet somebody at that game and you need to share, you need to stay connected to them. One of the ways we help mortgage companies and loan officers do that is by building a native app or branded app that is valuable. So what you're looking at here, guys, on the right is an example of what that might look like. Okay. So, you know, I've got curated resources here. I've got first-time homebuyer education. I've got the capacity to apply for a loan. I can search for real estate right in here, guys. I've got mortgage calculators, and you can imagine what kinds of calculators would be valuable for your customers as they start to build a relationship with you. Well, I mean, the sky's the limit. We got purchase money, refinance, affordability, and we've got even more calculators here, guys, that are listed. So you can go in here and you can literally find, you know, any kind of calculator that you might want to empower your customers. Now, I embedded these tools. These are some of these are native for our solution. Some of these are third party. Let me give you an example. Let's say you have an excellent YouTube channel. You can embed that directly into your mobile app. And now it serves as the point of reference for all of the educational information your clients might need. So there's one thing I like to say that your clients carry around with them and they communicate with more than their significant others, and that's their phones. So this is a way to put your brand, your message, and to build a relationship on the device they carry and they care about most. Okay. So now what's really novel about this is we're also obviously a point of sale. So when it comes to loan applications, uploading loan documentation, checking loan status, your clients can run payment scenarios. Let me just show you an example of that. Let's say you pre-approve a borrower. I'm going to go into the home search here. Now this customer is pre-approved. I already identified them. I've built in our system what's called a loan officer approved scenario. This is essentially a framework from me as a loan officer to say, these are the guardrails I want to set my client up against so that when they're out there shopping for real estate, they know exactly how much home they can qualify to buy. And instead of pushing them back out to Zillow or trusting that when they go to Redfin, they're not going to get sold to Rocket, I want to curate this experience so that they can go into my mobile app. They can see all of the data about the property. They can see if they're qualified, and directly from the listings themselves, if they are qualified, they can actually issue pre-approval letters right from the mobile app. They can see robust breakdowns of their payment, any of the details they want to, and they can even ask me questions. And as you can see right from here, the real estate agent is front and center, co-branded throughout. So all I need to do as a loan officer is just connect them to the loan, or if in this case, my realtor here, Jean-Luc Picard, if he was the one that shared the mobile app, they will automatically be completely co-branded. They will also be now connected to this customer's loan, so that if that realtor ever is curious to know, do they qualify for this property? Should I actually show it to them? Should I write an offer? It gives them that ability to in seconds. Now, one of the things we do, which is really novel, but it's actually extremely powerful, is what your clients see in the mobile app. So this experience here that I sort of built for them, okay, in a matter of minutes, changes based on their status. So this is what a lead might see. Now, let's say that they get pre-approved and they're under contract now, okay, or maybe they're pre-approved. You see when I change the status here? Now, this can be connected to your lending pad or to your Encompass instance and automatically happen. You don't think you have to go in here and press that button. You see that the experience here is going to change. So now watch what happens to these tools, guys. This is going to look different. Okay, calculator's different. Do we have a question, or am I out of time?
No, you're fine.
Okay, cool. So as you can see, the calculator is different. We've got loan progress here that your clients can track, and there's a lot more value. So if you're today thinking, how do I keep my customers engaged and I protect myself from these companies and these big super systems like Zillow and Rocket? If you haven't looked at the Rocket playbook, guys, this is a really great business use case. They've been very savvy. Okay, they started with Rocket Mortgage, right? Because that's the product where they make money. They made an acquisition of Redfin because they want to control the search. That's where people start their journey. They have now built Rocket Money to get in front of the ball so they can actually look at buying habits, trends. They can, based on that data, their bank accounts, they can see, are they likely in a position to purchase? Then they push them into the Redfin. They push them to Rocket Mortgage. And now with the acquisition of Mr. Cooper, they're managing the post-closing status. So what we're helping mortgage companies do is compete against big tech giants like Rocket to build their own ecosystems that change based on the position of the process. So let me mark this loan closed, and you'll see again, this is going to update. Now we've curated content, information, education, podcasts, equity reports, whatever you might want directly into the mobile app to manage that post-closing experience. Okay. We also made it very easy for you guys to offer this to realtors. So inside of our system, we have what's called a link generator, and there's a realtor landing page. This will present the big bullet point value props to realtors that we guarantee will help you attract new referral partners. Okay. So if you guys are interested, you want to learn more about how you can bring this sort of mobile experience into your world to compete against Rocket and the Zillows, go to preapprovemeapp.com and sign up for your free trial. Okay, Mitch, do we have any questions? Am I able to take questions? I don't know how this works.
Looks like Marson says the Pre-Approve Me app is the bomb diggity.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
I don't see any
I was
questions
actually thinking about
out there.
changing the name of the company to Bomb Diggity.
Yeah, the bomb diggity. Awesome, man. Well, hey, I appreciate you joining us. Appreciate you sponsoring the event once again and helping us bring this to the audience. And everybody, like I said, please go out and support these sponsors. If you don't, then I'm going to have to start charging you guys to come to these events. And we don't want to do that. We want them to be free, right? So awesome, Michael. I appreciate it, man.
Hey, Mitch, thanks. Take care.
Have a great day. All right, everybody. I'm going to bring on our next speaker. Kristen, welcome. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for joining us and sharing with us today. I know, you were close with Steve, and he was your coach and mentor as well. So I'm excited for you to share with us today, your insights to being around him and your thoughts, and just kind of tell us a little bit, maybe how you met him, or something like that to get us started.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. I feel very, very honored that I get a chance to share a little about what I learned from Steve. And if you see me get a little emotional after watching Bill, I thought I was going to have a complete breakdown. But I'm going to start from the beginning and tell you how I met Steve and how I started on this extraordinary journey with him. In fall of 2019, I was on social media and I was poking around, and I had found this site that said, we're looking for entrepreneurs that want to scale their business and do things that would terrify them. And I'm like, this kind of is right up my alley, because I have a wild heart. I'm the person that'll jump on a plane and fly to another country and not know anybody and rebuild a wildlife park. Like, it's just my personality. I love doing things like that. And this was a part of what we call the Sims Speakeasies. So I applied, and on the website, he's very, very creative. He says, you need to fill out the application. You're going to be called to be interviewed. You need to pay $2,000, and you need to wait to hear from me. And I was like, wow, really? $2,000, and then I get to talk to somebody? It's like, okay, I'm going to do it. I paid $2,000, and I waited a couple of days, and I was sitting in my office, and I looked down at my phone, and I was getting a FaceTime call from Steve Sims. And I answered the phone, and he started asking me a couple of interview questions and about my business as a loan officer and what I specialize in, what I'm looking to do for the future, other businesses that I've worked with in the past. And he said, you know what? I think that you'd be a really great fit for our disruptor group. So a lot of people out there that know Steve Sims, we have an entrepreneur group, and we call us the misfits. We're all called the little misfits or the disruptors, because we're not your average individuals. We dream big. We go after big goals. We try to make a huge difference in individuals' lives, whatever way that we can do for individuals. Now, part of this, he said, okay, I'm going to send you all the details, so get yourself ready for San Francisco. It was the first speakeasy that I ever went to. So I received an email from Steve, and it said, here's your hotel. Here's where you book. You need to be in San Francisco on these dates, and you need to show up at this address at 8 a.m. the next day. There are no details that are given. He does not give you an outline, and he doesn't ever tell you who you're going to meet whenever you show up there. So I went on my first speakeasy to San Francisco, and I was super, super nervous because I showed up there and I was standing in the hotel lobby, and I'm like, gosh, I'm really nervous. And there was a gentleman standing in front of me. He's one of my now really, really good friends, Courtney Buford. But I said to him, I'm like, hey, are you here for the Steve Sims Speakeasy? And he's like, kind of looked at me a little grumpy and was like, yeah. And I was like, okay. I'm like, my name's Kristen. And, I'm still standing there a little bit nervous, like, oh my God, what did I just do? Fly across the country to meet complete strangers, right? And I said, do you want to be friends with me? And he kind of gave me this look like, who the heck is this Texas girl asking me to be friends with her? And still to this day, right? Still to this day, him and I are very, very good friends, and we laugh about it because it was the first interaction and the first friend that I ever met at one of my Sims speakeasies. And it started this trajectory of years and years and years of all these different amazing places and different amazing people that I've got to meet through Steve. Now, when you go to a speakeasy, you never know who you're going to be in the room with. And this is one of the fascinating things about Steve that I absolutely love, is that he will put you in rooms and create unforgettable experiences that you will never, ever have in another life. Amazing, amazing experiences. And you heard Bill talk a little bit about what he talked about in his book and what he's done with his concierge system. And he was a bricklayer. He just, he's very, very vibrant, very bold. And one of the things that he has always said is you always need to be bold and authentic and always be yourself. And if somebody doesn't like you, who cares? Move on. He has other words in there that are a little bit more colorful, but I'll keep it very PG on here for you. But he says, just move on. So when you go to these speakeasies, you literally are looking around the room and you're saying to yourself, oh my gosh, is that the inventor of Pictionary? It was. Or, oh my gosh, what do you do? I'm the inventor of the UGG boot. Would you like to hold the first UGG boot that was ever invented? And I'm like, absolutely, I would, right? Or you get to meet all of the creators behind Pixar who do all of the films, or the advertising agencies that do everything for Victoria's Secret and Ralph Lauren. You're talking Brandon Turner, Bigger Pockets, Brad Lee, Dan Fleshman. One day I was on a bus and we were headed up somewhere and I was sitting next to an older gentleman and we talked all day long. And I never even asked this individual who he was until later in the day. And he said, by the way, my name is Dr. Jeff Spencer. And I was like, well, hello, it's nice to meet you. I'm Kristen. I said, what do you do, Jeff? And he said, I'm the mind coach for Lance Armstrong. I coach the Olympic athletes. And I was like, oh my God, I just spent 8 hours talking to the most interesting man and had no idea who I was sitting next to or who this person was. And it was all because of Steve. Steve puts these amazing people in a room together for you to learn from and build your dreams. And that is one of the best things that I love about him. And it makes me teary-eyed because I'm thinking about all of the things that we have done together. So a couple of things, like as you continue to go to these speakeasies, and you guys can put in the comments and talk about it, you learn very interesting things that you would never learn in life. One of them is, have you ever interviewed a prostitute? Okay. Steve did things where he asked questions and made you think outside the box to build your business better. So when he talks about, let's interview a prostitute, because a prostitute can tell you everything you need to know about a man, which how they put their watch on their left hand or their right hand, how they tie their shoes, what their belt looks like, and the way that it's actually done. So he teaches you these unique things, and then you take it back, and then he gives you things that you can go ahead and use in your business to think about, how do I take care of clients? How do I take care of borrowers? How do I take care of my referral partners that send me business? What can I do to create all of these different unforgettable experiences to make sure that somebody has a really good time, right? So
where did we take you guys on the Las Vegas speakeasy?
So we've been a lot. Reno is where the prostitute was interviewed. Okay. We have been to Las Vegas a second time, and some of the stuff we did there, like he took us one night, he's like, get in the bus. We're going to shoot machine guns. And we're like, what? And we went to a machine gun place and all of us were shooting machine guns, right? So he takes you and he does all of these really cool, unforgettable events.
Didn't he take everybody to the Bunny Ranch once?
That's the Reno. Yep.
Yep. You never know where you're going to end up.
Steve is so creative. He is so smart, and he teaches you the things that other people don't teach you. And that is one of the things that I just absolutely loved about him, because he'll show you a way to think about things that nobody will ever show you. And, you know, reading through, and if you listen to his book, Blue Fishing, you know, you get to hear his voice, and he's so authentic and amazing. And then also Go for Stupid, when he put together the book, Go for Stupid, you know, reach for the stars and leave everybody else behind, right? So as we continued forward through all these journeys and speakeasies, I was sitting at one of the speakeasies and I listened to this gentleman by the name of Brian. And he was teaching everybody in the audience, he spoke about making sales with your eyebrows. How you can walk into a room and sell somebody, talk to them about a pre-approval, or use certain specific questions in order to confirm a sale based on the shapes of people's eyebrows. And I was like, man, this guy is so fascinating. Like, I have never heard anything about this. How on earth can I walk into a room and learn everything I need to know about somebody on a pre-approval by the shapes of their eyebrows? It was extremely fascinating. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do what Steve taught me. I'm going to create an unforgettable experience for my referral partners. And I did. I had Brian come down to Houston, Texas. I picked out 50 of my best referral partners. I had my builders there, my listing agents, buyer's agents, and then I did invite several different clients. And I had Brian come and teach everybody in the audience how you can get more business by studying the shapes of people's eyebrows. And still to this day, every time it pops up on Facebook and you see the memory, tons and tons of people will comment and say, this was one of the best experiences that I've ever been to, because I followed exactly what Steve taught me. I didn't give people an outline. I didn't tell them what was going on. What I told them was the event's name was It's a Secret. You have a location that you're going to show up to, what time you need to be there. I didn't tell them who they were going to meet or what to expect. And it ended up being this absolutely amazing experience that everybody loved. And I would encourage you, anybody in the real estate market or anybody that is in mortgages, to make sure that you do create unforgettable experiences with your borrowers, your referral partners, with your companies, who you work for, your bosses, your managers, anybody, because it is so important how much of an impact that you have on other individuals' lives when you're creating these experiences themselves. But with Steve, so now that all of this pops up, it comes back to a lot of things that Steve has taught me over the years and the things that I really love about him that I would love to share with you. And Mitchell, I'm pretty sure that you've heard this one before from Steve, but Steve has always taught us, as we're looking at branding and marketing and anything that we're doing when it comes to our business, branding is not about what you do on social media or videos for yourself. Branding is about what other people say about you when you're not in the room. And that's exactly what you want to create in the community, in the culture, in the atmosphere that you're looking for when it comes to clients. So one of these, and I think Bill might have talked about this a little bit because I came in a little bit later, but Steve always talked about the chug test. And the chug test is, if you won't sit down and have a beer with somebody, they're not somebody that you want to do business with, and they shouldn't be in your life. And he was very authentic when he shared and said, you have to be very careful who you let in your inner circle and who you become close to, because that person can either drain you or make you better. And you want to make sure that they pass the chug test. So we always called it the chug test, right? And still to this day, I think about that, because if it is somebody and I'm talking to them and I'm doing business with them, but it's not somebody that I would want to sit down and have a beer with and really want to get to know this person and their family or anything about them, then it might not be the perfect fit. You just go find your authentic, perfect fit. And that's what he taught us to do. So a couple of things that I would love to show you, like one here, my lovely mug. Steve Sims sent this to me, and it's one of my favorites that you can see. But yes, I'm a ray of sunshine. And he said, always go out there and make a difference. But I will tell you, over the years, there have been times that Steve has been there for myself and other individuals because he is so caring and authentic in what he does. And during COVID, a lot of us were very lonely. We couldn't go outside. We couldn't go to speakeasies. We had to take a big break from seeing each other or building our businesses. And he would host these happy hours for everybody in his entrepreneur group. And he would teach us how to make old fashions. He would tell us he loved us. Go out there and make a difference. Keep your head up. You got this. You know, anything to make sure that we kept the morale up all the time, because COVID was hard. And it was really hard to be by yourself and, you know, away from people that we weren't allowed to talk to. But being that person that he was, he made a huge impact on so many different individuals' lives. And I really love him for that. And I'll show you something that is really personal, but one of the things that he used to do at all of our speakeasies is he would say, I want you to write a letter to yourself, and I'm going to mail it to you in 90 days. So he would give all of us his Steve Sims letterhead. We would write ourselves a letter of what we expect from ourselves and what we want for the next 90 days. And 90 days later, this beautiful letter would show up with his beautiful bald head that says Sims Speakeasy on it. And you'd be like, oh my gosh, I completely forgot that I wrote this to myself. And then you'd go back and see, wow, these are my goals. These are my visions. This is what I want, this is what I want to do with my life. But he was so creative when he was setting things up at the speakeasies to make sure that you did a really good job of following up and following your dreams. And, mine, I just wrote myself a really personal note and it said, hello, beautiful. Let's talk about you. Spend more time doing what you love, because as mortgage professionals, we tend to only work. And that obviously you can't just always work. You need to spend time with your family and your spouses and the people that are important to you, but really doing all of the things that you really care about. And one of the things that I told Steve, and he gave me a big hug, and this is one of the days back in 2019, I told him that he asked me, he said, Kristen, what made you click on coming to the speakeasy? And I said, I got to a place in my life where I forgot how to dream and I didn't know what to do. And Steve told me that that was the most dangerous place that I could ever be in life as a human. And he said I needed to do something about it immediately. And I did. And part of me doing that and changing my entire life and changing my mortgage business and companies and everything that has come since 2019 is because of Steve. And, listening to Bill Hart talk about him and everything that they've done together with prison and their lunches and how funny he is when he writes letters to Ford, he was an amazing, amazing mentor and man. And I feel so lucky and blessed that I got a chance to spend time with him and spend time with his family. And Henry's amazing. Several of you might know Henry Sims, but he's absolutely amazing. But I really, really appreciate when God puts somebody in your life that makes such an impact and such a difference. And Steve did that for all of us. And I love that. And I love, if you get a chance, please go out and buy his books, Blue Fishing and Go for Stupid, because he's amazing. He's authentic. I love him. I'm going to miss him forever. And he's definitely somebody to look up to.
And Steve inspires me every day. Every time I open up my laptop, you want to know how?
Stickers. Yes. Stickers. Yep.
I got Steve Sims' face that I could put on any laptop I buy in the future because he gave me a whole bunch of these.
Yes,
and
he did.
I thought it was funny at the time, but now when I open up my laptop every morning to get to work, that's what I see. And it just brings me back to the inspiration.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, I said that just brings me back to the inspiration that he gave me from the very beginning. And it seems like a lot of us met him, and maybe just in this industry, in that, 2019 was kind of when, he kind of bounced into the mortgage industry. And, I helped him get connected with more people in the mortgage industry. And I think we did, some stuff together with a group for mortgage people and like Josh Pitts and, all of us are like, hey, 2019, is when we kind of stumbled across him and what he does. And like I said, inspired a lot of people.
Oh, he's an amazing man. Yeah. He's spoken at a couple of different mortgage conferences. And I know people are always like, who the heck is this guy? And why does he always wear black? Right. Cause he always wore black. It was like his signature thing. And he would send out notes and text messages. He'd be like, should I change it up? Should I wear this? And people are like, no, like your signature is black. You always wear black, right? But yeah, he's amazing.
And people would give him crap about his, like online, people would give him crap about his Vans, know, and be like, that's your signature. Like your black and white Vans, that's LA. I mean, that's who you are. You don't change that.
I know, but to be honest, it's who he was, and he stuck to being authentic, and that's exactly what he taught all of us. And I will forever miss him. Absolutely. He's very dear to my heart, made a huge difference in my life.
Yeah, and look at all the connections and the friends you have, because of it. We've known each other because of Steve, and like you said, Courtney, we both known him because of Steve, and you become good friends with him. And and Brian and Josh and, you know, Bill. And it's just like, you know, the connection's the same. It's all these people, and it's just a small handful of people out of the hundreds and probably thousands of people that he's impacted. You know, from entrepreneurs to, like you said, he brought some of the biggest names in the world into those rooms and didn't even tell you about it.
Absolutely. And that's where it's just like shocking. You're like, who the heck am I sitting next to? Like, I literally have no idea. And that was just him. You create unforgettable experiences, and he's going to put you in rooms with people that you never thought in your entire life that you would be in. And you're going to learn from people that would never, ever take a phone call from you without charging you $10,000 an hour. Right. So, and he was great about it. He was really great about that. And he shared everything. And I really encourage individuals to read his books and really take a deep look at how you want your life to move forward and what you want it to be and how you want to operate your business, because you can do anything you want. You really can, but you just have to set your mind to it and make sure you're following what your heart says and you're being authentic to yourself. And
yeah, society tells us who we should be and how we should be. But that's not true. Like, look at Josh Pitts. I mean, the guy is running a business and spending time with his family on a sailboat, sailing the world 24/7.
Yep.
Gave up everything he had to live on a sailboat with his wife and kids. And most people would say, oh, you can't do that. Your kids got to go to school. You can't do that. You got to run a business. You know, you can't do that. That's not normal. But like you said, we were the misfits, the disruptors. And so normal is a curse. And you know, you got to be bold and go after your dreams and do things however you want to do them. And, you know, like you said, Steve did things differently with the speakeasy. I don't know many people that you could out there that could pull that off.
Oh, no, he was just him, honestly. Because he's so creative. Sometimes I wish I was just like, gosh, just to like be in his brain for just like an hour to see how he thinks of things and how he sees things. Like it's just extraordinary to me, because nobody else does it. Yeah. I'm gonna miss that. I'm gonna, you know, seeing everybody at speakeasies, and I hope Henry does plan one, because I would love to come to a speakeasy, and it's kind of like the part 2 of Simms Speakeasy. So see everybody again and have everybody out. Because like when you first met Steve, and I'll ask you, like, what was your initial thought when you first met him and you saw him?
Well, I didn't actually get to meet the man in person, but you know, with the first conversations I had with him, like I said, he was kind of like just getting into, you know, I saw like a flyer that he was going to be a keynote speaker at, you know, Mastermind in Vegas. And I'm trying to get into doing these virtual events. So I'm like, well, if I'm going to be successful at these virtual events, I got to have the best of the best speakers. So I reached out to him, and he was like, basically kind of like, you know, instantly responded, hey, how's it going? I'm like, told him a little bit about what I'm doing. He's like, yeah, I'm busy, you know, and that was kind of it. And then we just kind of kept talking. And then pretty soon he's like, well, I think I couldn't do your event because I was traveling that day or something, right? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, what day is it? I told him. And then like a day or two later, he's like, you know what? My calendar freed up. I'll do it. And, you know, his first questions obviously were, what does it pay? You know, that kind of stuff. And I told him, hey, you know, this is something I do, no charge. I don't, you know, I don't pay the speakers. And, you know, he thought that was kind of funny, but he was still in, you know, like he was a good sport about it, and was like, you know, I think to him it was, hey, I want to get involved with the mortgage industry. I think that would be a good spot for me. So why not do this? You know, and so eventually he was like, let's do it. And then I was, you know, absolutely thrilled. And my favorite part was, he's like, I looked at your last flyer and I noticed you had 9 speakers. I was like, yeah, I'll have about 8 or 9 this time. He's like, so are we all going to be the same? Then I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, am I going to get the same, you know, treatment, or am I going to have a bigger picture? And I said, I'll give you the biggest picture, as big as you want on the flyer. You can have your big head and everybody else is little. I said, you know, I'll do it however you want it. He's like, okay, that's fair. So it was just funny to me, because he was like, am I going to be like everyone else, or can I like, you know, get a little extra promotion here? I'm like, whatever you need, I'm in. So it was just funny because
he thought, like he would tell us, like, if you're doing a presentation or you're speaking on stage, what's the first thing somebody's going to see when they walk in? Is it going to be your face on the back of, you know, on the stage? What are they going to see? What are they going to remember? What's going to make somebody want to talk about you when you're not in that room? So that's where he's creative. He brings out the best in everybody.
Yeah, and he always told me, he said, you know, the saying that he always would tell everybody was, if you go into a bar and sit down next to someone and tell them how great you are, they're going to tell you to F off.
Mm-hmm.
But if someone else comes into the bar and sits down to that same person and they tell that person how great you are, then they're going to love you.
Yes.
So he's like, you know, you need people to tell everyone how great you are before you get in the room.
Correct.
Because if not, they're going to think you're full of yourself and tell you to F off.
Yep.
So
that goes back to branding. He says branding is not what you do. Branding is how your name is shared in rooms that you're not in. That's how branding works.
Yeah. And I just love that. Like, if you go in bragging about yourself, they're going to tell you to buzz off. But if someone goes in bragging about you, then they're automatically going to love you. And that's true.
I agree.
Well, I love it. And, you know, it's like I said, this kind of popped up in my mind to do this because so many people were sharing, you know, thoughts and messages about Steve, and not just condolences, but like, hey, this is how Steve impacted me. Hey, this is how Steve impacted me. This is a funny story about Steve. This is how I met Steve. And it kept showing up over and over. And I'm like, we all have those stories. Like, I should do something to honor that legacy that he brought, because I think it's important. And, you know, doing these events back-to-back days, I think we really were able to share a lot of the best of what that man brought to everybody's lives, and hopefully introduce a lot more people to him, you know, and what he's got out there. I mean, he'll live forever on the internet, and, you know, it's our job to keep that going and keep people falling in love with him and what he does, just like we did.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And his family is absolutely amazing. His wife is beautiful. She's the sweetest ever. And I will tell you, like, that was one of the things that I really admired about Steve, is that he was no bullshit. He would tell you. He's like, I'm going to tell you right now. So he told us one speakeasy that he wanted to start having Claire travel with him because he was traveling a little bit too much. He wanted to be close to his wife and his family. So Claire started coming to the speakeasies with us. And he said, she's important to me. I love her, and I want to make sure she's by my side. So I'm going to make changes in my life to make sure that we're together doing these things together, right? And as he followed up with that, he told us a story how he was talking to somebody once, and the individual made a comment about how they were cheating on their wife, right? And Steve said, don't ever put yourself in a position where you spend time with individuals with questionable ethics. He's like, you don't hang out with people like that. You don't spend time with people like that. So if you ever get in that position, don't do that, right? And I'm like,
right.
I love that you said that, because a lot of people don't have enough courage to say that to a crowd of people, right? It's like, okay, well, you know, he's like, no, like, think about this. Whoever you spend all this time with, these people are going to impact your life greatly. So spend it with people that have great ethics and that love you and take really good care of you. So he's amazing. I love it. And I really, really appreciate you having me on to talk about Steve, because his speakeasies really impacted my life. And I love the man absolutely to death. I love his family. He made such an impact on all of us.
Yeah, you were one of the first I thought about when I decided to do this, because I just, you know, I know the impact he had on you as well as Bill and Josh. And, you know, it's like, you know, I want to bring people together that can share the love that they had for him and as you did. So I appreciate that. And I know it's not easy, you know, it's not easy to do. So I appreciate you doing that to honor him and his legacy and keep it going. So, and I wish I had more of these so I could give them out to people.
I know, right? you get to see his little face. I'm packing up my office. Everybody has like these cool backgrounds like Bill Hart. And I'm like, my office is like half packed up. But yeah, I find them. So when I was packing it up, I found all these little Steve Simses because you put them on the back of your computers and you take a look at it. And then I always keep all of my notes that I send myself from all of his speakeasies. So he's great.
Yep. Mine's right on the inside of my laptop, right by the mouse. When I open it up, there it is. And it's funny because I got rid of my old computer and got a new one. And first thing I did was found one of those out of my drawer and made sure I put it back where the other one was. So,
yeah.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you very much. Thank you for joining us and sharing your insights on how Steve impacted your life. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. Let's stay in touch.
Bye.
Bye. All right, everybody. We are going to bring back on Megan from Hancock Processing. We lost her before, so we're going to give her chance to speak again here. Welcome back.
Hi, thanks for having me. I moved to the mountains, so the service cuts out a little bit sometimes, so I am really sorry about that. I didn't know if I should pick up where I left off last time or if I should kind of start over from the beginning.
Yeah, it's up to you. I mean, it's I think diving into the packages is kind of where we were, so that's obviously a good place to start, I think.
Perfect. Yes. So I know I first, I think, mentioned our package A, which is our most popular. With that one, once the file is under contract or once on a refinance, we know somebody's moving forward. You'll assign the processor in the LOS portal, whether you're working in Arrive or Lending Pad. We'll do a quick review on the file, export the 3.4, and send it to whichever lender portal that we're going to be working out of. With that one, I do always, with any file, we ask for a handoff, just like a quick loan story, an idea of like where the file is going, what pricing might be assigned, and just anything else we need to know. And then an introduction to the borrower, just kind of a soft intro so that they know that we'll be reaching out. And with that one, we're ideally importing the file, assuming we've got access, we've got your credentials, importing, registering, disclosing same day. We'll always send you a copy of the loan estimate, like a draft to review before sending, and then submit same day, assuming we have those e-signatures. We'll call and follow up with the borrowers to make sure that those are completed. In that case, we're taking it all the way through post-close audit. The audit is done out of your LOS. We are familiar with, a lot of the bigger broker audits, and even, Edge, Barrett, C2, for example. And of course, if you have custom audits for your broker shop, we'll work out of those as well. We have a database for every broker that we work with and their specific audit guides. Package B, we're going to take over once e-signs are already done. All borrower docs, of course, are already provided because we're operating off the assumption that the loan was already pre-qualified. And then same thing, we're going to take that all the way through post-close audit. Package LOA, so this is a service that we launched about 10 months ago. So with that one, we just need a completed 1003, a credit report, and just knowing that somebody's looking to, go under contract and close within the next 30 to 60 days. So once we get assigned in the LOS portal, Arrive, or Lending Pad, we'll call the borrower, verify all of the details on the 1003 and make sure it's correct, request any income docs. We do have an income specialist on our team and work out of Ocrolus. And then as well, so he'll scrub the file, submit it, and then actually double check anything when it comes out of Ocrolus to make sure that the income calc is correct. We'll issue the pre-qual, we'll run AUS. We'll ask you to, run Loan Sifter and get us pricing. But once we've got that pre-qual ready to go, follow up for with the borrower, of course, as they're shopping. So that's our LOA package. It has become very popular, and it makes it easy that you're working with somebody all the way through, like on the front end when they're shopping, and same thing all the way through post-close audit. We already know what's going into the file, and it allows you to stay front end focused. And then of course we do, that one's $14.95, and then our streamlines and Earls, because of course we know that season is coming. With all of those, we're going to take over at once the disclosures are e-signed, submission all the way through post-close audit, and that one's at $6.95. So those are our packages. I always like to share, I'll do, I guess, a recap on our superpowers. I always like to share that we work how you work. So we don't have our own portal. We do have our own CRM where we track our internal pipeline. However, we're going to work out of Arrive or LendingPad or UWM if you're working out of Blank, and whichever portal that you assign us to. That's where you're going to get your daily notes, your updates. All borrower docs are being uploaded as we go. And as well, we don't round robin. So when you first start with us, you're going to be introduced to a processor who is a good match, based on time zone experience. If you're like, hey, I need somebody with non-QM experience or DSCR, we'll narrow it down and find somebody there. Or if you'd like to interview a handful, you always have that option as well.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming back and giving us a second rundown. And thank you guys again for always supporting our events. And I wish nothing but the best for Hancock Processing. If you're looking for a processor, make sure you reach out to Megan or Trevor or Tyler or anyone over their team. They'd be love to help you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Nice meeting you. Talk soon.
Yes, you too. Thank you. All right, everybody. We're going to bring on our final speaker of the day. Give me 1 second here to bring on my good buddy, Mr. Bretton McDonald. How are you, sir?
Yeah, money.
It's a morning over there for you, afternoon over here for us in the normal Central Time Zone. I hope you got to tune in and listen to, a little bit about what we've been going on about here today.
Yeah, been listening for the past 2 days. Thank you. What a tribute. I've gone back and listened to the Audible of Steve Sims, both the books, and it's good to, what a tribute. These guys, Pitts and Bill and Kristen, what a cool, I think I've heard the word impact and authentic more times this morning than I've heard in a long time. And it's,
that's true. Those were his words. You got to be authentic and you got to make an impact somehow. So, and
right?
He was definitely both of those.
Right. It's a reminder it's just a reminder to not doubt yourself. It's just to be you, you're authentic, and it's authenticity vibrates, I think, at the highest level, that and love. So it's just, I appreciate, plus the AI stuff yesterday was the agentic AI and everything. It's I love stuff. This stuff gets me hyped up,
Yeah.
With good,
the AI that we rolled out there at the end of the day, that looks like something that is incredible. That Manoj dropped on us, and it was like that to me is mind blowing. That's taking AI from ChatGPT and apps and searches to, things that are almost scary.
Yeah.
It's almost like the sci-fi movies that you watch, but being able to digitally twin yourself and create something that can do the work you do and help you do the work that you do and think like you and get past emotions. That's pretty incredible stuff.
Yeah. I'm excited. You can be scared or you can be excited. Both sides,
or both.
Or both, right? But I mean, talk about go for stupid. This stuff is getting stupid in a fun way.
Yeah.
Can't wait for it.
And they, they always, I used to, have anxiety, about things. And then I read a simple thing that the anxiety and excitement all have the same symptoms: sweaty palms, fast heart rate, that's, you can be excited or you can be fearful. It's the same thing. And you just got to tell your mind which one you are. If you're excited for something, you're going to have sweaty palms. Your heart's going to be racing. Or you could be like, oh, I'm scared. And that's the same exact symptoms. Your body reacts the same way to both.
Yeah.
It's all your mind.
Everything's in your mind. It's just getting up for this thing to speak. You start getting a little nervous, but what makes you feel confidence is your past wins.
Yeah, and look at Kristen. Yeah, Kristen brought this up. She's, like she said, sat down with and talked with some of the, most successful people in the world. But then she even messaged me, you know, before this and was like, I'm freaking out. You know, like this is scary. And I'm like, we got this. You're gonna do amazing. And she did. So
Well, you introduced me to Steve Sims and a lot of this stuff. So shout out to you for coming up with that great idea. And you know, these, like, I've seen these guys, Pitts and Bill and the others, and I've listened to a lot of their stuff. It's good to surround yourself, to impact other people, and surround yourself with like-minded people.
right. That's the key. You got to surround yourself with people that have goals and people that want big things. And that's what Steve did, is surrounded people with other people that, you know, wanted the biggest and the best, and that shows. So I'm excited to have you on, man. And you're gonna, you know, kind of talk to us a little bit about hours and attitude, and that's what it's all about to be successful.
Yeah. Thanks. It's started 7 years ago. You said the word goals, and a little over 7 years ago. But hours and attitude, I just give a little backstory to it real quick. Is right now, currently, I run the #1 team in the country with Homes for Heroes and Geneva Financial, funding hundreds of millions a year. And my thought is just to give my own testimonial, because I know it best and I can speak authentically on it. And somebody had asked me years ago, because I came from a call center. I was there for 14, 15 years at a call center, comfortable, making good money, and everything was great. And then I remember some of the guys would come up to me and be like, what are you doing? Because I was #1 guy there for the entire time. And guys would come up to me and ask, and ladies would ask, like, what do you do? And I would just boil it down to hours and attitude. And I think the more with this AI, and there's so many shiny objects pulling us, and I'm ADD to the top. So it's easy to get distracted, and it would just boil down to hours and attitude. You know, that was just so simple as, you know, every Saturday morning I would work, and every Sunday evening I would work. And you're going to get, especially the past several years, it's been tough, you know, but then it's your attitude. It's always your attitude in everything, I think. So just having can't have attitude without gratitude, and just having a positive mindset is I think the separator. And then keeping it simple and it's not glamorous or anything like that. And there's platitudes and all kinds of things you can say. I'm not this most self-talk. I'm getting better at speaking, but it was just outworking everyone. I don't know what
Right.
to this day. I don't know. It's like a competition almost, where I want to work because I want to help people have fun and make money. And that's what it boils down to for me, is just every day waking up with a purpose and a grind. Even though we're all probably getting older now in this industry, everybody's kind of over the grinding part a little bit, but no, this is when you double down, the law of accumulation. So they used to ask me, well, what it was, and it was just simple hours and attitude. And I was just what I was hoping is I was just going to share what I did to build a team and give away any secrets I have. I'm overly transparent. Just want to give any secrets I have that I've learned by building a team. And if somebody can pick up a few good nuggets out of it and use it and implement it and help their lives and help somebody impact somebody else, then that's a win. That's a win. So that's why I'm here, is just to share and give. And that's I appreciate the opportunity, man. As always.
Awesome.
Talk about being authentic. I'll start with I was going to light a cigar because I smoke cigars here. That's being authentic. And I like how Steve cusses. That's authentic. You know, trying to keep it
Right.
clean for the folks, but I let it rip. You know, it's authentic. It's my Hoosier upbringing, maybe, but it's coming from passion. I heard that several times too. And if you believe in what you're doing, you're passionate about it, it comes through. It has to, you know, whether it's helping a hero get a home that was homeless, or helping somebody reach their aspirations, helping them get there, and kind of leading them so that they can have a better life, changing lives. So with that, I was just going to kind of go through a little bit of my story real quick, and just kind of give some of the pieces and some advice on what I would do over again, and then think for stupid or go for stupid. This kind of remotivated my juice. And that's what I was going to say. About 7.5 years ago, I started listening to Audible. One guy told me that I had to get a book called The One Thing. And when I got Audible and I started listening to Brian Tracy, Jim Rohn, started putting good stuff into my brain versus, you know, forget the news, forget the noise, the distractions, is just focusing on pouring good stuff into your brain. Eventually, hopefully it comes out. And 7.5 years ago, I was at a call center, making 75 bips at the time, having a good living, doing well. And then I remember the owner shifted us from 75 bips to 72. The same week he sold his $25 million house. I love success, good for him. But it was on that moment, being there 14 years, I realized I was a bit of a pawn, in a refi center, didn't do any purchases. And I saw the map moving, and I had to go catch my own fish. We call it being an outdoor cat versus an indoor cat, with us being spoon-fed leads. And I went and got my broker's license, wanted to open my own brokerage. And then I made a phone call to Aaron Van Trojan, the owner of Geneva Financial. And it was the best damn move I could have made. And it's one of those, you guys talk about the first time you talk to Steve, you remember it. And they're talking about mentors and having Steve as a mentor. I think that's one of the things that people need, is a mentor and a vehicle to help show you how to get there. And, you know, he's become a mentor, Aaron Van Trojan, which is something that I appreciate and I'm putting to use. And that's when I was writing down my goals. And Brian Tracy says only 3% write down your goals. I don't know about you guys, but I've got the, Win by Noon planner by, and just was writing down goals every single day, obsessing about it.
Is that Todd Bookspan?
He's the one that introduced me to Think and Grow Rich and the laws of success. And that's when you start, now I can't get enough learning. To earn more, you got to learn more. So for things to get better, you got to get better. And just picking up all these books. And one thing that he taught me is, we can all learn it and get better at it, is sales. Is because a lot of us came into this industry just being good with people, maybe. But to really refine your sales. And right now we have all the information on YouTube and Audible. And now it's just pouring in. It is keep improving. And sales reminds me of golf. I was thinking the other day, just because it's like you love it. And some holes you play a perfect hole and you're like, yes. But then some holes you shank it and you mess up. It's like, it's always hard to perfect your craft. And then you just have a bad day of golf. But there's no such thing as a bad day of golf, I don't think. But it's just trying to improve, because the better we are at helping people, and I just changed the word sales to helping. I don't want to sell anybody. I want to help people. So just learning those things to improve ourselves so that we can be better. We can deliver better value to other people. So, and that's, and with that, I came over to Geneva Financial. And the one thing I wanted to I think people forget, that's why I say it's hours and attitude, is when I left the job, making great money, became self-employed, or, self-generating. And I had no book of business, not one borrower, I didn't know anybody, because it was all national call set, national inbound. And I had realized after I left the job that I was basically unemployed. I've got 2 mouths to feed and a new family. And I'd been just left the top guy at the old place, knowing that it was a risk I had to take. And manager at the time, I'm just going to lay out how I did it, and it worked, was he told me that I needed to spend $3,000 a month on advertising. So I did what he said, and I started advertising on Facebook, and was working, grinding. And I remember I got my very first pre-approval in San Diego, a veteran. And one little thing that I'd recommend to anybody, if you get one, if you have had a veteran buyer in San Diego who's moving to Hemet or San Jacinto, and here's a little nugget. I put a post inside of, I think it was called Lab Code Agents. And I put a post in there and says, hey guys, does anybody have a good realtor to refer in San Jacinto or Hemet? I've got a veteran looking to buy in that area. And I just posted it in there. And I remember that day I got 24 inbound direct messages from realtors. Instead of taking them to coffee, kissing their ass, or doing, no offense to, it wasn't my, and that's when I got 24 inbound messages. And that was like now they're coming to me, and I'm having a realtor say, I'd love to give you 30% of my commission to refer it. And I'd love to interview and it brought them to me. So that was my aha moment. And the OCD kicked in, got all the alphabet, and that kicked in where I had to call every single realtor to kind of interview them. And the borrower cussed a bit, and I met a realtor who to this day is a great dear friend, my number one realtor partner, who's just dear friend, one of those good people that you want to surround yourself with. And he's number one in the state of California with Homes for Heroes now. And we became best friends through that lead that I invested in, got him pre-approved. And from there, it just started snowballing and doing a couple deals a month, 3, 4, and it just started growing. And that's where I wanted to, in order to get to the next level, because I studied mortgage marketing animals and, seeing how to scale and do these things, but none of that works without work. You've got to, I had to grind and just work my tail off nonstop for about a year and a half until you have enough volume to where you're doing so well. And then my best friend calls me thinking of going back to and then I got a hold of him. And when you're succeeding, when you're vibrating at a level, when you're crushing it, I'm like, you got to get over here, man. You got to believe me. I made this much money last month. This is the best I've ever done. And I believed in it. And then he came over. The same day that he came over, I remember talking to him on the phone and saying, hey, we've got Jeannie, who's my heart, is my LOA, but she's more than an LOA. She's division coordinator now, because then we had enough volume to get her. Once we got her, now we had more time to go sell and not plug in account numbers, all these bank statements and doing the minutia. She took that off of our plate, and then we started cooking. Then a couple more LOs. Then you have enough volume for your own processor. And I love I love how Sims mentioned it. I had a kind of a rule is no assholes. Like he says, you want to surround yourself with ethical, good people. You want to enjoy the people. It's your work family. So just good people that are professionals at what they do, that deserve the best. And then we got our own processor. And then we're just cooking it. It's growing. And I never wanted to be a manager in my entire life. Never thought of it. I was always just a originator. I knew that most loan officers are full of shit. They're going to come up with excuses or whatever. So I just wanted to stay in my lane and do my own. But then it became fun because you're working with coworkers. Everybody's just going for the same goal. And you start surrounding yourself with like-minded people that are positive. They have good work ethic. They help people. They're smart. And you start surrounding yourself with that. And then I discovered in March of 2020, when the market started getting crazy, is I got lucky and I landed 2 underwriters. I only needed 1, but I got 2. And then with those 2 underwriters, and most of the country was at 2-3 week underwriting turn time, we were still at 2-3 hours. And that's when I learned that speed is the name of the game. I used to think it was communication, but it's easy to communicate when you're fast. Contracts in on Saturday and it's out of underwriting, but by Monday Night Football, it's fun to communicate. So I learned that speed is the most important thing to these realtors. God bless them. And then communication, getting it done. And then from there, it just started growing. and growing. So that's where that's where it just becomes fun. Now, so we're all having fun and we all have the fastest team so that we can deliver the most value. So it's just become something that I love. Here's a note card right here. I got all kinds of stuff. I love this. I've got so many go for stupid winning streak. I've got lots of stuff to just keep the juices flowing, because this can be a grind and you get tired or something falls out. It's just how you react to it, right? If it's played cornerback at Ole Miss, might get into that story in a sec, but played cornerback at Ole Miss and it didn't happen to me, thank God. But if you ever get burnt deep, it doesn't matter. Next play, you lose something, something blows up, something's always going to go wrong, but it's a learning. I like how Sims says you're either winning or you're winning. There is no fail. You're either winning or you're learning. So it's how you handle the losses. So again, this goes to mindset and attitude. If you're working, if you have a great attitude and you're working more than everyone else, and that's what I think is coming with this AI stuff, is we've got to learn it. It's here already. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm working my tail off, but then I'm studying AI and studying all the stuff there. That's the overtime, the extra work you need to do to get ahead, because I don't know what's going to be left of this, of the bottom 50% of this industry in another 2 years, in months. I mean, it's here and I'm excited about it. So the way I think to thrive in the future is to crush it today. Crush it today is the goal. And I think a couple of little nuggets that I got from that is Homes for Heroes. I would suggest to everyone, in my mind, every branch manager or loan officer in the country should be set up with Homes for Heroes. I'd say Geneva's where's my shirt? Geneva's my football team and Homes for Heroes is my baseball team. I love them both. I'm die hard. So Homes for Heroes, if nobody knows, or if you're not too familiar with it, it's a way for us to give back to heroes in our communities. And it's such a good group of people, realtors, affiliates, lenders, and we give money back towards heroes, nurses, firefighters, first responders, military, active, retired, police, fire, who else? Teachers. So it's just a good way to give back. And that's another good book, The Go-Giver, is, in my mind, why would somebody not do it? It's Team America, so it's getting in with, and it's such a good group of people, adds a little bit that extra spice or passion to know that you're helping. I mean, some of these stories get your tears going, just because these women and men have sacrificed so much and they're here for us. And I think when things get tough and you're like, I don't want to make this phone call, or you're like, I want to get distracted by scrolling the internet or scrolling social media. I don't want to say poison, but use it as a tool. Don't let it use you as a tool. So, but just surrounding yourself with heroes and helping them, if they can do what they're doing, I can wake up early. I can work late. I can make the extra phone calls. I can give more if they're working their ass. There's people right now in the ER helping people, and they might have had a rough day and they have something going on in their lives, but they're still working their ass off. So I feel like I owe it to them to do my best to help people and have fun doing it. This industry is enough of a grind, but if you believe in it and you believe in helping people, it pulls you, that passion pulls you when you're not in the mood or you're not feeling like it. So that's just, I would say, work is what I'm doing every day. I'm going to work my ass off. Hopefully we'll see how these revised numbers come out tomorrow. I'd like for some tailwinds, but calm seas never made a good sailor. Doesn't matter. The harder it gets, the better. So it's just a mindset. So that's the that's the juice. I don't know, whatever there is to that. And I would say maybe what kind of inspired that is, and I've told you this before, Mitch, is I was playing football at Ole Miss, and what makes me appreciate nurses so much, to me, they're angels on this earth, is back in 93, I was playing football at Ole Miss, and I flipped a car and hit a tree, broke C6, C7, and T1, and paralyzed. Go from being a football stud to just, your legs are bone thin. And I was a paraplegic for about 4 months, and I got lucky. Thank God I got lucky, and my big toe wiggled. And when my big toe wiggled, I knew I was going to walk. Thank God. God bless. It gave me gratitude to this day since then. And then I went to the forearm crutches, the parallel bars, the forearm crutches, to a walker, to a cane. And now I've got a pimp limp, I call it. But going through that pain just made me appreciate being alive. 166, looked it up. 166,000 people die every day on Earth. So we woke up today. That's a win. Start with wins. Coffee, even though it might be my fourth. It's a win. So listening to these awesome people drop their knowledge and their inspiration is a win. So whoever I want to give wins and just keep those wins tallying, what you focus on grows. And it's just this mindset of having appreciation for nurses, because it taught me patience. It taught me pain. It taught you what's really important, which I thought was really good to hear in this, which I need to get better at, is family. Because when you're in the hospital for 4 months, family shows up. And the friends you're not thinking of too much, you had your buddies that you wanted to hang out with, but then there's these other people that were your friends that would just show up all the time. And it made me realize what's real and what's fake. And those lessons I'm grateful for, even though it sucked. It gave me this appreciation for so much more. So with that, it's like there is no limit. Now hearing this and going for stupid, I need to make my goals bigger, my dreams bigger. Like I said, we're going to be gone one day. So it's just how you interact and help people. And I'd love it, for people to talk to me the way you guys talk about Steve would be, a dream. It's just helping those that we love. Hug dogs, have fun. This is a short time on Earth. We're all atoms spinning around. Nobody knows what's going on. So just, we're gifted to be in this industry. We can help a lot of people, change lives, and just crank some music and let it rip, let it rip. So that's, I don't know if there's any value in that, but it's worked. So that's all I can speak to, is it's worked.
Right. And like you said, when you told me that, hours and attitude, that's what it takes. That's simple. It's that simple. If you want to be successful, you got to put in the hours and you got to have the right attitude. And, I've had some negative self-talk when you and I talk and you're like, hey, like you don't, you recognize it instantly. You don't let it go by. You don't let it pass. You're like, nope, I heard it. Knock it off. We're not talking like that. So that's the attitude. Like, negative self-talk is more impactful than other people talking bad about you.
Right.
Your own negative thoughts are worse than people's, thoughts about you, the haters.
Right. It's true. It's easy for us to fall into. Everybody's got negative. We're humans built to look out for negative to protect our lives, but you just focus on, we're our biggest critic. Kids aren't allowed to say the word can't. There's certain things that it's self-talk. That's another great book. Is it called Self-Talk, or what you say when you talk to yourself? I believe it was a book by Shad. There's just so many good books. Influence, Bluefish. There's just so much good stuff. Invest in yourself. Keep pouring in good stuff. This morning they're watching Roblox and watching somebody else play video games. I'm like, like put on some smart stuff. Let's have fun with it too. It's trying to hopefully help them become better human beings, because unless you want to be average. That's what I asked him last night. Like, do you want to be average? If you do, cool. Be like the 97%. Or be like some silly game that's got 63 million views on it. I'm like, I don't get it, but it's, just try to get them to be that 3%. If they want
Get them on the other side.
What's that?
If they like that stuff, I said if they like that stuff, get them on the other side. Go have them playing the game and recording it and posting on YouTube. Let people watch them, and then maybe one day they're the ones with 6 million likes.
Right,
and,
right.
And they're making money off of it instead of watching someone make money off of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're blessed, man. Thank you for setting this up. And I love the way Sims, and that's how you met him. You reached out. I think one of his chapters is ask. And that's a good thing that you've done. You're not afraid to ask. There's no fear. It's faith over fear.
And I think that's why he agreed to do what I asked him to do. I think in the beginning it was because he was like, this guy's doing what I tell everybody to do without me telling him to do it, because I never met him. And when I asked, he could have been like, no, dude, like, who the hell are you? But he was kind of like, you know what? This guy's doing what I preach. So I can't fault him for that.
Right.
And I think that's.
Did I lock up or can you hear me?
No, I can hear you. Just your body's locked up.
That's all right. I'm surprised my internet's been cutting in and out this morning for some reason, or it's not morning anymore, probably where everybody is, but I could have got a better still shot of me, but that's all right. They don't turn out that well.
It looks good. Well, man, I appreciate you. Giving us your time and sharing your insights on, Hours and Attitude and, putting forth the effort. And just, like Steve said, go out there and write down some big ass goals that, you may think are unattainable, because if you have a goal and you can see the goal, it's like a carrot, go get it. And eventually you're going to make it there. If you just get 1% better every day.
Right. Atomic Habits, another good book. There's too much good stuff. There's so much information poured into the brain. It's got to come out the other way. And that way we can help the people we love the most and everybody.
Yeah. There's no excuse anymore for, I don't know how to do it. I can't do it. It's with the internet, there's no excuse for that. Like the other day I had a tire go flat on my, lawnmower, took it off, took it to the shop. They fixed that, put it on, tractor wouldn't go forward. I was like, what the hell? I could have been like, well, that's just my luck. Now the damn thing don't work because it took tire off.
Right.
But I looked it up and I typed into Google, my tractor won't move forward after changing tire. And guess what? Like 7 other idiots did the same thing. And one guy was on there saying, oh, there's a little, square pin that goes on the rim that probably fell out when you took your tire off. So what I do, look in the grass, there's the square pin. Put it back in, put the tire back on, tractor works. So, there's no excuse for not being able to do something, because the internet will tell you that you're not the first one to have the problem. And you said, there's too much good information out there that you can find to figure out how to do things.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you.
Oh, cool. I'm still here. I like what you said right there. The tire, I just broke my finger last week. And that same realtor I was telling you about, God bless his heart, he's like, oh, you still got 9 good ones. After being paralyzed, I'll be earthing or grounding in the backyard, smoking a cigar, talking to somebody, and I'll step in dog shit. The kids forgot to pick one up. And I'm grateful because at least I can walk. I'll stub a toe and be like, shit, thank God I can stub my toe. We're alive today. We get to call, my dad texted me this morning. He's alive. It's a win. Start stacking up the wins, focus on the wins and look for them, and you'll get more of them. I believe. I mean, it's happening. So I believe in it. I'm just going to keep believing and keep doing as great as I can. Just to help people. We all can. We can all get better, and that's a goal.
Absolutely. Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you joining us, and I will chat with you here soon. Got some info I want to share with you, and after I'm done with this, so I appreciate it.
You're the best, Money. Enjoy. Appreciate you.
All right, we'll see you. All right, everybody, that's going to wrap up our final day of our 2-day event here in honor of Steve Sims and his legacy. I want to thank you all for joining us. If you can, please look in your email. I'm going to send out emails. Also, in the chat there is a link to a survey. Really appreciate if you can click on that, fill out that survey to help us, make sure our next event is even better. We really appreciate you guys joining us. Really like to have your opinion on how things went and what you'd like to see in the future. And if anybody has any questions at all, please reach out to me. The replay will be sent out to your email via StreamYard, not from me directly. So make sure you look for that. And if you have any questions, about anybody that spoke or how to reach them or anything, reach out to me. I'd be happy to help. So appreciate you guys once again. Have a great day.